Jason Weigandt didn't grow up wanting to be a journalist. He grew up wanting to be close to motocross and figured out a way to do it. As a kid, showing up at the Racer X office with his car and nothing but a willingness to do whatever it took, Jason built one of the most respected careers in motorsports media from the ground up. For over 2 decades, he's been the editorial director at Racer X, and he's become the voice of Pro Motocross, the person who puts words to the moments that define the sport. But more than a journalist or a broadcaster, Jason is a true believer in the sport, someone who has spent his entire adult life trying to make sure the rest of the world understands what we already know, that there's nothing quite like motocross. This is Jason Weigandt. Now let's dive in. Welcome to Ride Beyond, where we go beyond the ride and into what matters. In this podcast, you'll find meaningful conversations with people who live with passion, chase freedom, and remind us what it means to live fully. The motorcycle is our connection, but the stories are what take us beyond. You've been embedded in this industry for so long.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going on 25 plus years now. I started working for not really Racer X, specifically GNCC side in 01. I was sending them stuff and they were publishing some of the stuff I wrote in like 2000. So yeah, do the math. That's 25 years. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's literally basically as long as I've been riding a dirt bike. So like,
look at that. Yeah.
I can't believe we haven't crossed paths.
I
grew up racing. I was a really slow privateer for a couple of years in the 2000s. And then I've worked in the industry for a long time, but I'm stoked to finally...
Colorado guy?
Colorado.
Yeah. And you had a pro license, is that what I heard? You did a pro license.
Yeah. For my first race was Thunder Valley 2006. And that was before they had separate A and B qualifying, I think. Because I remember my very first practice, I'm in staging with like Ricky Carmichael and Chad Reed. Because I did the 450 class because like, as a privateer, there wasn't a fighting chance on a 250.
Sure.
But like, I just remember like in practice at Thunder Valley going up that long uphill in the back.
Yeah.
And like Chad Reed passed me so fast.
Yeah.
That I almost was just like, why am I here? This is crazy. But it's cool. It's cool to just see the levels. Like I talk about this all the time. Like you can be like really good locally.
Yes.
And then you go to like an amateur national.
Yes.
And like, it's a different story.
Yes.
And then you get to the pros and it's a different story. Then you get to the top 10 guys and it's a whole nother level. And you get to the top 3.
Yes.
Or even the top 1. And it's just like.
And we could talk about that because every sport is probably like that, but very few allow you to ever even make that connection. Like you could be a decent guy in your local basketball pickup, but you cannot ever get on the court with an NBA guy to even get that Chad Reed experience. And all it took you was what? 30 seconds.
Yeah.
All you needed to see. And anyone who's decent at playing basketball would only need 30 seconds on the court to be like, oh, bro.
Yeah.
But moto is one of the few that lets you do it.
Yeah. And even
we're recording right now, are we?
Yeah, we're recording.
Oh, this is a show. This is a show.
Fun.
Okay.
Yeah, we're going.
Yeah.
Even the tracks, dude.
Yes.
So like you're used to your local track. They might groom it a little bit or whatever, but like an outdoor national, you're not going to show up to a pro basketball game and all of a sudden the surface is
you're
different.
right.
And it's like
courts are courts, tracks are tracks. Even
the
road racing, track's track.
Yeah, it's gnarly. But I guess my first question for you, just like being embedded in this sport for so long, and I don't think you had a traditional background in motocross. How did you get into this sport?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked because I explain this as much as I can, but not everybody listens to everything. I was a diehard motocross fan from being a kid. I was not some guy that like went to college, discovered I could work in this and then make a living outsider guy. Like not at all. So it's like I said, I've told it before. I was into like any other kid, cars and trucks and wheeled machines when I was 3 and 4 and 5 years old. My parents always tell me my first word was car, any vehicle I was interested in. So they did buy me a quad when I was 6, but I didn't know anything about dirt bikes or racing or anything like that. But my dad worked for Bel Ray, the oil company. They had come back from their heyday. Their heyday, like 10 years earlier, they were sponsoring all the teams. They were not nearly as deep in racing as they were by the time I was a kid. But the one thing they kept was they continued to be one of the big sponsors of the Unadilla race, which back then was a USGP. Now it's a national. So that race was going to be on TV, which was huge in the 80s. There were only 2 races on TV, the Carlsbad GP and the Unadilla GP. So my dad, who had nothing to do with motocross, he was a scientist in the lab, chemist guy, comes home from work one day and he's like, hey, we have to watch USA Network tonight. There's a thing on TV and Bel Ray's going to have a commercial on TV. And we're like, what is it? He's like, it's a motorcycle race and we have a commercial. Will not believe that we have a commercial on TV. So again, I owned a quad, but I didn't know about racing or dirt bikes. It was the 1985 GP. I was just about 7. I was still 6 years old. And that was the coolest thing I'd ever seen, ever. And I mean, I've watched it 1,000 times. I can tell you, it was first moto was Johnny O'Mara and Bob Hanna battling it out. I still, in my mind, the pass that Hanna put on O'Mara was the fastest I've ever seen anyone go. If we watch it back now, we'd probably laugh because these are 1985 bikes. But Bob Hanna was just a kamikaze, insane, ballistic. So I just watched that over and over. And then my dad, you could visit your dad at work, go to work with your dad one time. Oh, no, this is what it was. The only place we had to ride, Bel Ray did have some land, which was presumably they would test, but they never used it. I think that was their goal, but they never used it. So they had some trails and stuff on maybe like 10 acres or 8 acres, nothing crazy. My dad's like, you could actually ride that quad behind our factory. So we would go there on like a Saturday and I would get to ride around some gravel parking lots and these little trails they had. So at one point, my dad's like, here, you can come in and see where I work. And in the lobby, they just have piles of dirt bike magazines. And I'm like, what is this? And he's like, oh, we buy ads. So we get all the mags, but nobody reads them. And he's like, you know what? I'll ask. I could probably bring these home once they're old and don't need to be in the lobby anymore. I wasn't even old enough to read yet. Like I was in kindergarten, first grade, like just barely learning how to read. And they said, fine. No one in the building cared. So he's bringing home Cycle News every week and MXA and Dirt Bike and all the ATV magazines also. And it's like my dad's reading them to me. And then eventually I'm able to read. So by 86, 87, 8-ish years old, I'm now just reading every Supercross report in Cycle News. Again, races aren't on TV. So that's all you got. So I just always explain this as in detail as I can. So people know, even though I didn't race growing up, it wasn't like I wasn't into dirt bikes. I mean, I was all over it. And then in 89, they finally had all the Supercross races on TV, on ESPN. I got a VCR and tapes for Christmas. I had to learn how to program because on the East Coast, they were on a 12:30 a.m. Thursday night. So I had to learn how to set a time record on the VCR. And then on Friday morning, I'd wake up early before school to watch the half-hour Supercross race that was on TV. And that was like, to me, that was everything. The idea of racing or owning a dirt bike was absolute insanity. That would never happen. My parents would never allow it. They were like, unless you're like Evel Knievel, you're going to die, type A, risk-taking personality, you can't do that. So then we started going to local races at the local tracks in New Jersey just to watch, which again, I thought was normal. I found out years later, like everyone sitting in those stands.
They were there with family or
riding a moto earlier in the day.
Yeah.
Like they were waiting for their moto, right?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I'm like, there's people in the stands. There's fans here, right? No, that was just me. So I did not have a dirt bike until I was like, when I'm an adult, I'm going to do this. Once my parents can't stop me. I just didn't know at the time that I'd be working in the industry by the time that came around. But I did do it.
That's like in a way, such a cool introduction for you because it was not only like this moment where you discovered your passion for motorcycle racing, but also through the lens of a magazine.
100%.
Which was like such a preview of the future for you.
Yes.
The
TV shows.
And the TV shows.
Yes.
And like recording these TV, you're almost like getting into this media world in a way. Like,
maybe. Dude, I used to write notes. I used to take a stopwatch, watch the races, do lap times. And then I had a notebook where I was tracking lap times of guys. Now that I've talked to people that made those shows, they're like, dude, they were so edited up. Those were never full laps. Like you're watching, once they finally started putting Pro Motocross on TV.
Yeah.
You're watching a 30-minute
moto. It wasn't live.
No.
Yeah.
No. Literally, what Supercross would do is, because there were off weekends, back then, Ben, the calendar was like, there'd be 12 Supercrosses, then 3 Nationals, then a few more Supercrosses. The calendar was all over the charts. So they would wait. Let's say Supercross had 6 off weekends. They wouldn't show the first race until the 7th week of the year. So then they could show races every week. And then in the last week, they'd catch up. So you were so far behind. They were so edited. They were probably announced a month after they took place. I'm trying to get data. And now I've literally talked to the dudes that have produced those shows. They're like, dude, did you realize the 30-minute moto, but when the Nationals were on TV, was shown in 16 minutes? Like, there were no full laps shown, dude. That was cutted and edited. I was like, oh, man, I thought it was real. I wasn't doing the math in my head. Like, I remember summer of 94 was the first time they put the motocross series on TV. And that even ramped it to another level to finally get to see that full on. So you're probably right.
Dude, it feels like you're like doing what you were meant to do.
Maybe.
It's like you were already doing this as a kid.
Maybe.
It's cool.
Maybe if I never thought about this. If I was just racing like everybody else, I'm sure, look, everybody that races is still into watching the pro side. But maybe it would have been like an 80-20 or a 70-30.
You would have channeled your love for the sport into riding.
Yes. Sure, I would have known who Jeremy McGrath was. But would I have been watching it so closely that I was taking lap times?
Yeah, and the odds are that you wouldn't have been a good enough rider to do anything with it. So like, it honestly was like
maybe
the best case scenario, which is cool.
Maybe. Yes, my entire connection was from those magazines and the TV shows. And it is freakazoid now. Like, we went to the Moto 90s movie sneak peek a couple weeks ago.
Dude, how was that? I can't wait.
It's great.
It's good?
Yes, because the main thing when you watch a documentary about something you already know about is you're going to stab someone if there's something interesting you know they left out. And you're like, they didn't even know that this happened? Everything, every single thing was in it. It had freestyle. It had all these things that they didn't even have to cover. You're like, man, they didn't leave. I got the backstory on every single interesting thing. Point is, I run into Damon Huffman at this, and I am just destroying him with questions, quoting interviews he gave in 1995 in MXA. He probably thinks that's cool that someone cared that much. But also, there's got to be a part of him that's like, this dude remembers what I said about Ryan Hughes in 1994? He's asking me about the interview I did 32 years ago? But maybe you're right. I had nothing else. That was all I had.
Dude, I do feel like you have a freakish ability to like hold on to the facts and data and be able to just recall in the moment, especially if you're like commentating something live, to just be able to remember all of these very specific details. It's a very unique trait that I think is really good for your job.
First of all, it's very guy-like. I tell my wife all the time, you don't realize how much smarter guys could be if we didn't have random sports knowledge. Like, the amount of brain space we are friggin' wasting on whatever it is, either player numbers or batting averages or how many touchdowns this quarterback threw, or in our case, moto stuff. I mean, I could do word association. You could tell me any year ever. And this is sad. The first thing that comes to mind is who won the Supercross title that year. More than, if you say 2014, the first thing that comes to mind is that was Ryan Villapoto. He won that year. It's also the year my son was born. But that's second. 14 is Villapoto. Like, it's just a running dialogue. But I think a lot of guys are like that. Maybe I'm like 10% more extreme. But we're pretty stupid like that.
Yeah.
With the things we actually sweat.
Yeah, dude, it's funny. So you found this path that clearly is something that you were meant to do. But I'm assuming early on as a kid, it probably wasn't clear that this could be your future.
No.
So growing up, I don't imagine you maybe dreamed of working in the motocross industry. Did you have ideas in your head for like what you might do with your life?
Yeah, not this for sure. I mean, the industry, as you know, is tiny now. I think it was even smaller then. And everything was California, and I lived in New Jersey. So there was a 0.0% chance, to your point, it wasn't even a dream. It wasn't even a thought. It wasn't something I was even aspiring to. As you might be able to tell, I enjoy public speaking. I kind of find out that most people don't. So then I'm like, that's to get a job. I can go into a field that no one wants to be in. That's going to be good. So that was my focus. Any way I could get public speaking. So for me in high school, the only thing they really had was a theater department. I had zero interest in plays, being an actor, being a singer, but that was the closest I could get at that time. So I dove in head first, did all the plays, was leading plays the whole time, having really no interest. It was just the only outlet I had. And I knew once I got to college or something, they didn't offer broadcasting in high school. So I knew I could eventually get to that avenue. But yeah, I really just thought I majored in PR, and I just thought I would be doing public speaking, in the firing squad at a press conference or something, that's what I would do. Even broadcasting, My parents are weird, okay? Most parents probably have an overinflated idea of the talent their kid has. My parents are the exact opposite. Like, it was like,
Get a real job.
it was like, yeah, don't ride a dirt bike because you'll suck at it. You would never make it. Where most parents I know think their kid is going to be the next champ, and then they have to find out the hard way. My parents were like, don't even try it. You suck. How do we know you suck? Because we just know. So in like my teenage years, and I was like, hey, what about sports broadcasting? My dad was like, everybody thinks they're going to be a sports broadcaster. That's ridiculous. Nope. There is no chance. It'd be you against a million people. Don't even try it. So the discouragement, I didn't even really go for it. I went to school for PR. And then what really changed the game was Davey Coombs started a publication that wasn't in California. And it was like, okay, Morgantown, West Virginia, that's only 6 hours from my house. It seems a little more achievable that I could like drive there and meet some guys. So I started just sending them. This is when I'm still in college. I started sending them stories. I would drive to a Supercross, send them a story. Drive to a national, send them a story. You know, there were enough races driving-ish distance. You know, what's motocross driving distance? Under 9 hours is like close, right? You're from Colorado. Did you go to Oklahoma and New Mexico? And
Yeah, I mean, I went to Southwick, you know.
yeah, exactly. Our idea of what's close. I'm like, Indy and Atlanta, I can drive to those two Supercrosses. I think Atlanta's 9 hours and Indy's 7. That's within driving distance. And I would send them stories. And I remember the first time that Davey, I was sending him to Brian Staley, who was the managing editor. I would never email Davey. Then I get an email back from Davey one time saying, thank you, this is awesome. We've never met. He doesn't know if I could be 40 years old for all he knows. I was probably 20 at the time. And they're like, hey, we're starting a website now. We can run some of your stuff. Now, we're not going to pay you. And I'm thinking like, pay? Of course you're not going to pay me. But I had a little foot in the door, and that was the goal, because not only was Davey East Coast guy, I'm like, if they ever said, hey, we would like to interview you or maybe invite you for a job, I could do it. I could drive 6 hours and get there. I couldn't do it if it was California. A. B. Davey was also on TV at the time. I don't know how many people remember what Jason Thomas does now. Davey did that job.
Yeah, so legendary.
Yeah. So I'm like, if I can meet this guy, I can use the writing that I have, the PR background that I have, and maybe, just maybe, there's a door he could open into TV somewhere down the road. He's the only guy I know in the industry that has both the magazine and TV part. I wasn't trying to use the TV angle because, as my dad said, everybody thinks they're going to be a broadcaster. Do the hard part first. So I just kept, I was a writer, I was a reporter, I was a journalist. So that's what happened. If it wasn't for the, hey, this Davey guy, and he's only 6 hours away, if that didn't exist, I don't think I would have even tried.
I was actually asking Davey about you, and he said, I think he said it's the first time he remembers talking to you, he was a guest on DMXS, or I don't know if this is
his story is a little different than mine, because of course in his situation he's beating thousands of people. I remember all the details. He's remembering some of them, but that's the story he always tells.
He told me like you know, you were this guy that called into DMXS. He was on.
Yeah.
And you know, you wanted to work with him.
Yeah.
And he was like, all right, well, come on out to West Virginia. We'll have a job for you. And then he was like, and then he just showed up.
Yeah.
And he's like, I wasn't expecting it. And then when he got there, we were like, all right, what do we do with this kid? You know?
That's about 50% of it. I mean, yes, I actually met him. I think it was Indy Supercross 2000 or 2001. And I was meeting him at a lot of races by that point. My story is a couple years before that. I'm like, I have to drive to High Point, and I know that they have a party. I have to find this party. And this is before we have GPS or cell phones. So I'm just driving around downtown asking randoms, like, is there a party for the High Point motocross race? Somebody pointed it out. I pull into the parking lot, and there's Davey in the parking lot. And I'm like, hey, you're Davey Coombs. I read your magazine. I think it was a newspaper. Actually, it was actually still a newspaper at that point. Wow. So that would have been like 97, 98. Holy crap. I'm like a freshman in college. So then I would, at least if I went to a race, I could be like, hey, Davey, you know, like, I'm a guy that you shook hands with once or twice before. So at some point, you have to go to the parties. That's the way it was back then. Like, if you want to meet people, you have to go to the parties. So at some point, he did say, like, we're looking to expand, you know, we might have a job for you. So then every time I would see him, or I would email him every couple of months, how's it going?
How about that job?
Yeah, not really getting much info on that. But the part he seems to forget is that at the end of the '01 season, we're at the Broome Tioga National, and he's like, come to Morgantown. I have an apartment you can live in. And then I drove there, and he gave me the keys to the apartment. So although he seems to think I just showed up, when you give me the keys to a place to live, it appears that I have a job.
Yeah.
But he's kind of right, because they didn't have anything for me to do, nor is there a desk, paycheck, or computer.
He said, I got an apartment. He never said I got a job.
Yeah. So maybe I misinterpreted that, but apartment seems like he got a job. I think his goal was, look, the company was so raw back then. It was a company in name only, dude. It really was barely a company, like barely.
Well, your apartment was like above the office, right? It was like
not at that point.
Okay.
But yeah, it eventually was. There was an apartment the Coombs family owned. It was like guys that worked, say, like on the GNCC track crew on like the bottom floor. Maybe I was in the middle, some other high point guy at the top or something like that. But we didn't have HR. We didn't have interviews. We didn't have hiring. We had nothing. So I honestly think Davey was just like, I don't know, man. This kid keeps pestering me. If he shows up at the office enough, maybe my mom or someone here will find something for him to do. And honestly, it sounds crazy, but it did work. And it was better than the alternative, which I guess him saying, I don't really have anything figured out, so the answer is a hard no. You know, just gave it a whirl. And you know what it's like when you're trying to break in. That's all you're looking for. Like, just give me a shot. And plus, back then, this is like 2001. It's going to sound crazy to all the young people now. The economy was rolling. If in 6 months it washed out, I would have gone back to New Jersey. I would have got a job in New York City or Philadelphia or something. No problem. I would have just used my PR degree and just started working for a PR firm. So for me, it was very little risk. What's 6 months out of my life? If this just completely fails, I'll come back at Christmas time and we'll be good. But it worked out. I got hired on the GNCC side, which had no office employees. It had people that built tracks and Davey's mom in the office doing all the paperwork.
I got my first set of Fox gear back in 1998. I wore that jersey to school almost every day, not just because it looked cool, but because it meant something to me. That Fox head was more than a logo. It was an identity, a symbol of the sport I love. And all these years later, I'm still wearing Fox. And it still means just as much. For over 50 years, Fox Racing has been chasing the edge, pushing what's possible in moto gear. From past legends to current stars and the next generation of champions, Fox has never stopped evolving. But through it all, the mission has always stayed the same. Build the most advanced moto gear on the planet. I've been part of this journey since I was a kid, and I'm still proud to fly the Fox head. Explore the latest gear, including the new Danger collection by Hayden Deegan, available now at foxracing.com. It was like the least glamorous job that I feel like you're the type of person, at least the way that, you know, Davey described you when I was doing a little bit of, you know, I called him before this just to learn a little.
Okay.
And he was just saying how you're not afraid to get your hands dirty. And at that time, or even, you know, you still are this way, but like you'll do whatever it takes, you know, to like get the job done. And if there's something that maybe other people won't want to do, you're the first one to raise your hand and do it. And I think that's what it takes to break in, you know, especially
quite simple.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Especially this day and age. But, you know, because I feel like people are less and less have that mentality.
Yeah. I think there's been too much of the too much motivational speaking out there, which is saying like, you know, follow your dreams, follow your path. That is true. And I did that. But to get there at some point, you're at the bottom, dude. You are following your dream. But I've said this over and over. I've never actually really asked for a job. I've just asked, how can I help you? So I found the area that the company had the most need. It had nothing to do with what I wanted to do, but why would they care what I want to do? Of course I wanted to cover Supercross, maybe not GNCC, but they had tons of people that wanted to go to Supercross. So I say that advice all the time. Like, this is an industry everybody wants to work in. Some kid will be like, what does it take to get in? And I'll be like, what can you do? He's like, I don't know, man. I just want to be there. I just want to do it. And I'm like, well, you have to tell us what you can do for us. We're not in the dreams making business. We're in the business. Like any other job, you have to bring a skill to the table that we need. Yeah. I mean, that was like my beginnings 16, 17 years ago. I wanted to get a job at Answer Racing. Okay. Because they had like a graphic design position open. I had no experience, but I was like,
I was decent. I was doing it on my own for fun, like learning design.
Yeah.
And Photoshop and all that stuff. So I applied. I sent in my resume via email, mail, fax, like 3 times.
And you had already been a racer at this point,
I'd
right?
been a racer.
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Yep.
I got to the point where I was like, I'm not going to make money racing my dirt bike. I'm too
Right.
slow.
Yeah.
So I'm like, how can I channel my talent for creativity and
Mhm.
be involved in this industry? But, you know, I applied like 6 times and I finally got a call.
Yeah.
Like, who's this random kid with,
Mhm.
he's obviously enthusiastic. I came in for an interview. Again, I had no experience, but a lot of enthusiasm. So they gave me a shot. It was like $13 an hour. I sat in the back corner of the office, like behind some like old stuff, just a computer shoved in the corner.
Yes.
And I did that as a temp employee for
Yep.
like several months until they finally hired me on as a graphic designer. So it's like you just go and you grind and you do what it takes. And then eventually I'm working at this brand that just signed James Stewart and I get to
Yeah.
like design his gear. And
That happened.
all of a sudden, yeah.
Some of that gear, or maybe all of it, I don't know. You had a hand in it.
Yeah, a lot of it. Like
That's
not
crazy.
the first batch of his gear was outsourced to some agency, but
Yeah.
following that, like I got to design most of the gear for the next couple of years, which is really cool.
Wow.
As like a young kid, seeing this dude who is my hero
Yeah.
of all riders,
Yeah.
like lining up at Anaheim or Hangtown, like wearing this stuff that like I had a hand in.
Oh
I was like,
gosh.
dude, this is crazy.
Yes. And at that point, that's the difference. I guess somewhere along the way, it flips to where like no one owes you anything when you're a nobody. So you're just trying to be like, what can I do for you? Answer, how can I help? If I got to sit over here and you got to pay me a tiny bit of money.
I'll type in all the part numbers in the catalog. I'll do
Totally.
like whatever it is.
Yeah.
The worst job.
Right. Because you have no value to them at that time. And then as you move up, it does flip to where now you start having value. But yes, it's the most basic advice ever. But I do think, and I am far from the walking uphill to school both ways guy. I mean, eventually we'll get in this. I'm not a retro guy. I love what you're doing here because I respect anyone that's kind of like breaking the mold or trying to think ahead or before. But I will say that some of the younger people I met feel a little bit too like, hey, I got to be aggressive. I got to be confident. I got to sell myself. And most people really don't want to hear that. You have to prove yourself, not sell yourself. And that part is a little bit lost, I think.
Sometimes there's like a bit of entitlement where it's like you're just starting and you think you just deserve top dollar. You just deserve the fun job. Like,
Yeah.
it's earned.
It's
like,
earned. Yeah. Yeah. And I get the motivation of like, don't ever tell anyone, don't let it. My gosh, how many rider interviews are like the doubters, the haters, that's overplayed. Sometimes you're just doubted for legitimate reasons, as in you had no experience and you had nothing to bring to the table. If they wanted to even be disrespectful and sit you in the corner, that's deserved. Like, that's not them being disrespectful. So I think there's a little bit too much of you have to fight for yourself. Sometimes, but not when you're starting. There is no fighting. It is
sacrifice.
Throw all the crap at me and I will just take it. And honestly, even if you have a better idea than whoever your superior is, who cares? They're your boss. Just friggin' take it. You'll have your time someday.
Yeah. And I feel like that mentality is honestly what helped you get to where you are and have the longevity you have in this space. Is this like something you've always had, or was this just like a mentality you had to cultivate because you wanted to be in this industry so bad?
No, I think it is something I've always had. Way too much, way too concerned with what people think and trying to do the right thing by people, which is ordinarily great life advice. These are the things we're taught to do. I've learned that a lot of people say they're like that. Most people deep down are fairly selfish, but I'm just always trying to do the quote unquote right thing, which I'm like, no, you're supposed to, it's about helping. What do others need? How can I help others? At this point in my career, I'm probably too far that direction where I need to be a little more fighting for myself and my own value and what I can bring to the table, et cetera, et cetera. But that is 100% just my nature. Like right now we're doing this show and I feel super guilty over, there's definitely some race wreck stuff I need to work on, but I want to help you with your show. I got a guy coming to fix a broken window on my house that my kid broke playing baseball. He's going to show up here in a moment. I feel bad for that guy that I'm not going to be there. Now my wife has to answer the door. And I could just be like, hey, whatever, man, I'm doing me, but I'm consumed by it. Like yesterday I was on the road and I was mad that I wasn't here. tell by my wife, et cetera, et cetera. I'm never thinking of it from my angle. It's definitely ingrained, and I need to break that a little bit at this
Yeah,
point.
I agree. You got to look out for yourself as well.
Yes.
I
Yes.
do really appreciate, you being willing to do this. Like,
Yeah.
that means a lot as well. But
Yeah. And obviously I didn't mean you specifically, but this is the kind of thing. Mathis and JT make fun of me all the time because I will talk to anybody, random fan of the races that I've ever met. I'll talk to you for 20 minutes. And they're like, dude, you need to stop doing that. Your time is too, not to be disrespectful to that person, but your 20 minutes is too valuable to spend it talking to a rando when you're there to work.
yeah,
Yeah.
sometimes people just trap you in. And if
Yeah.
you're like more of a people pleasing personality, like I am, sometimes it's hard to like respectfully be like, okay, I got to go.
Yes.
Because then people just keep going. And
Yeah. And I get why. I would be doing it too if I were them. Like, oh,
you're a
I'd
fan.
talk to this guy. Yeah.
Yeah, totally. What year did you start at Racer X?
Yeah, so I think all of 2000 and most of 01. So I graduated college in 2000. At that point, I had a little bit of like a toe in the door where they were pretty consistently publishing anything I sent them. So again, I knew that if I just graduated college and tried to get a real job, the Racer X thing would be over. If I got an entry-level job at a PR firm, I'm not going to the races, whatever, you got to leave Friday, get back late Monday, because the races were on Sunday back then. So I'm like, here's what I'm going to do. I went to grad school for a year, not really planning to get a graduate degree or needing it. It was just to not be a complete loser and do nothing, but have a flexible enough schedule to still do Racer X stuff. And I'm like, I'm going to give it this 2001 year to see if it leads anywhere. And then, yeah, that was the next to last race of 01, where Davey's like, hey, I got an apartment for you. So that's 01. The famous Langston breaks his wheel race is technically Steel City, like the first race I'm like, I think working for them. Because at that point, I just had an apartment and I wasn't working for them. Then there was a GNCC the next weekend. Davey told me to go there because I could meet his mom and maybe she could get me a job, which took a few months, but that did eventually pan out. So yeah, it's 01. But really on the GNCC side, and I don't think this was planned, but doing GNCC was the best move because there wasn't really any media there. So I didn't have to like elbow my way in. The riders were happy to have any coverage. So if you want to do an interview or shoot a photo or do anything, everyone's down for it. So I was able to, from like day one, I had like full autonomy to do whatever media I wanted for an entire race series, which who would have that? Like if I started at Supercross, it would have probably been years before I could even get an interview with someone.
When you first started, you were going to school before that.
Yeah, I was in college.
Going for PR, you could have got a PR job for like some big company and had some job security.
Yep.
When you took a gamble on this small, pretty new magazine and you're out in the woods in Pennsylvania at a GNCC race, did you ever wonder like, what am I doing? Like, is this the right move?
No, not because of that, because I did feel like, dude, you've come this far. And look, honestly, it sucked that first year or so because again, this was not an organized company at all. Certainly those first couple months where they weren't even paying me because they didn't even know why I was there. Like, I'm not even saying this was wrong of them to do this. They didn't give me a job position. So just because I show up in the office doesn't mean that they owe me a check. You know what I mean? The only money I made, ironically, was I could send stories and photos to Cycle News. So I was actually getting paid by Cycle News first, which is crazy that I'm now, getting a byline in Cycle News, when I was reading it as a kid, so they paid pretty good. They paid like $300-400 a story, 2 per month. I'm like, okay, I get $800 a month and I don't have to pay rent.
It's a lot back then. Yeah.
And I have this apartment that they haven't charged me for yet. But the only thing so once I was that far in, I'm like, no matter how much this sucks, you can't quit now. You've already went from a toe in the door to the foot of the door, and now you're like in the door. And there's a desk maybe over there if you can get a little further. So I wasn't going to quit. But you know what makes this industry tough is you can only be that extreme sacrifice, working 100 hours a week person for so long. Like eventually life
you
has
burn
to
out. Yeah.
It's not, some would get burned out, but eventually you're like, have a girlfriend or a wife, or you have a family and you have kids. And now it has to be somewhat of a real job. You can only do that thing for so long where you're consumed 24/7. I mean, dude, I had There was nothing else going on in my life except working. Nothing. It was literally work at the office all night, go back to work the next day, get on the road on Thursdays, get back on Monday, work. That's not a sustainable life. So, I mean, I didn't even date anybody for the first couple of years that I was there. It wasn't even possible. Eventually, that has to be pared back a little bit.
It's necessary for a while.
Yes,
sometimes.
It is. Yes.
But not forever. Like,
no, and the industry is tough because that's kind of...
Sometimes it's what it takes.
Everybody works that way.
Yeah.
To a degree.
It's what I'm doing right now until I can grow to the point where I have editors and stuff like that. But
you're never gonna. You're gonna have editors.
Yeah.
You're gonna have editors. You're gonna have more help. But you'll never just be able to shut it off completely.
Yeah, the media game is rough, dude.
Yes.
So you went from back in 2000, 2001.
Yeah.
Kind of with no job title.
Yeah.
And you had a role where you were just filling in where you could and finding your way. How did your role change from those days until now? Because I feel like the whole media landscape has changed. And I feel like your place within that company and within the media landscape changed a lot from then to now.
Oh, yeah. Two answers to that. A, remember, I'm starting as PR guy, writing press releases, writing stories for Cycle News. I'm completely a writer. I was not a photo guy at all, but I had to learn how to do it. And I did shoot some photos. But notice there is no talk about being an announcer or a broadcaster here at all when I break in. So early in 2002, like the first year, I'm like, okay, I guess I'm here for the full GNCC season, not just a couple races at the end of the year. I think at that point I am getting paid. Those GNCCs are all-day events. So the announcer, Rodney Tomlin, has to cover like 14 hours a day, Saturday, ATV day, just to get to the bikes on Sunday. So, I'm talking to everybody on the staff. I'm a friendly guy. And at some point, I think it was the second or third round that year, he decides to like, hey, you're writing the stories. What's going on in the pits? And as you would imagine, I handled that interview part pretty well. And he's like, man, you speak pretty good. Can we do this every Saturday morning at like 8 a.m. when nobody wants to be here? Yeah, no problem. So then eventually it's becoming like, talks to me for 20 minutes, talks to me a half hour. How about you help me announce? Eventually, I'm just a full announcer. And eventually he's like, here, you take the mic. I'm taking a break. So that's, by the end of 2002, I'm like one of the announcers. And it's funny because I think they being like the GNCC people, Carrie and Rita Coombs and Tim Cotter, they think it was like this random dude walked out of the woods and had the ability to announce. But I had been planning public speaking since I was like 14 years old. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'd always intended to go down this path, but I didn't knock on the door and say, hey, I want to be your announcer. But this was always what I intended to do.
Mm-hmm.
So
the journalism stuff was actually not what you...
No, it was just the way to get in.
Yeah.
Do the job people don't want. Nobody wants to write. Everybody wants to talk. Everybody wants to shoot a photo. Everybody wants to be a mechanic. No one ever sent us a resume saying, I want to write. So that's 2002. 2003 goes by. The 2003 season, the races are on TV, GNCC, and the TV crew is like, hey, we need more info. We don't know anything about ATV racing at all. So they're just emailing me like, what about this guy? What about this race? How did this work? How does that work? Over and over. And I'm just answering email after email of like, well, this guy does this, and this guy comes from here, and this is an interesting story about this guy. It was Brett Smith. We went fast.
I love Brett.
Yeah, we're the same age. So he was kind of breaking in, like they probably gave him the bottom feeder job. Like, you're in charge of info on GNCC quads. And he's like, well, they have a PR guy. It's this guy, Jason. And it's so funny because he and I still work together, like in the Supercross booth this year. He's in there as my stats guy. This is 2003, and we're breaking in together.
That's cool.
Eventually, he says, you know what, man? We've heard you announce at the races. Do you want to just be the announcer for these shows? It would save a huge step of having to take all your notes and teach someone.
Yeah.
I think it was Art Ekman at the time. They're like, Art's pretty old, man. I don't think Art's going to learn all this. Do you want to just do it? And it probably seemed insane that they would even ask. But again, that was my intended path all along. So they fly me to Atlanta where they do these shows. And they're like, hey, we'll have you try one. This is a 22-minute GNCC ATV race. I do the whole 22-minute show. We get to the end. And they're like, oh my God, you did the whole show in one take. And I'm like, yeah, thank God, dude. By like minute 18, I was freaking because I'm like, don't screw it up now. And they're like, we can stop and edit. And I'm like, wait, what? They're like, yeah, we can stop at any time if you screw up. And I'm like, I didn't know you could edit. I thought I had to nail it. And they're
Dude,
like,
that would be insane.
yeah. And they're like, nobody comes in here. The pros don't come in here and do a 22-minute show in one take. You've got the job.
That's cool.
So then I was TV guy. They said I was going to get paid $1,000 per show. I mean, there were 13 races. And I'm like, this is $13,000 I didn't expect to make. And now I'm going to make it. Like, we're going to do all these shows in like a month. And I'm going to get like a $13,000 check. That's like doubling my salary at this point. Like, I'm making hardly any money. And then they went out of business and I never got paid.
Oh,
But I was now the TV guy.
yeah.
So GNCC kind of took it over themselves in-house. And obviously they were going to use me because I'd already showed I could do it. And it's easier to hire me than someone they don't even know. So we were, I guess, determined to be off to the races. And now I was a TV guy.
Dude, that's really cool. And I feel like those opportunities really snowballed from there.
Oh, yeah.
I'm surprised you, because that was your initial dream, is
Yes.
the broadcasting thing.
Yes.
I'm surprised that you stayed involved in the journalism side this long.
I do hear that a lot, but it's the thing of the industry. The industry is not corrupt. The industry just doesn't have a lot of money. It's a small sport. I don't know how other industries work, but the amount of people in these pits that have 3 or 4 jobs and multiple income streams, it's just the way it is. Yes, I'm doing Supercross and motocross on TV, but I don't get paid what the NFL announcers do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I get paid enough where I can make it work, but it becomes so complimentary to still be Racer X guy. I'm already there. So it's not backbreaking work to still be the Racer X guy. It makes more sense to have the 2 jobs than the 1. And there are so many people in this industry. I mean, I'm working alongside Ricky Carmichael, who probably made tens of millions of dollars racing, but he's not just doing the broadcast these days. He has all these other Monster and Triumph deals. We all do it. So very few people are doing it any other way. It's just the motocross way, man.
How do you juggle it all? Because both jobs are like full-time jobs, especially the media business. It's a constant grind.
Yes.
It never ends.
Yes.
What does your day-to-day look like?
Yeah, it's one of those funny things where like the labor hardcore is the Racer X journalism side for sure. The TV is the easiest part. The hardest part of TV for me is like, you got some meetings that you can't miss. There's a meeting on Wednesday, meeting at Friday at the racetrack. I don't have to do research for TV because the Racer X job is the most hardcore research there would be anyway. And then honestly doing the 3 or 4 hour show that's just fun. Just don't want to miss a meeting or be standing in the wrong place. You're supposed to be here and you're supposed to be there. As long as I can handle that, TV's actually pretty easy. Yeah, the Racer X thing or any media job, that's way more backbreaking. Now I have a really good group now. And
That's
if we,
the key.
yes. And if we just decided to just keep doing the same old thing, I wouldn't really have to do that much. We can autopilot it for days. Everybody knows what to do. Love the people that I'm going to say work with or work for me. But
Can't do that.
you can't do that.
Especially with these days, with how quickly everything
It's
changes.
ridiculous. Right. Like what you're doing here would have seemed psycho 7 years ago.
Still seems psycho. When I text people like, hey, I'm going to show up to your house in a trailer, it's like, what?
Yes, that's just the personal safety part. But the idea of a pod that comes to you actually makes complete sense. Yeah, walking into this random black trailer in front of your house, a little weird. I asked Mathis, did he kill you? And he said, no, I'm still alive. And I'm like, okay, we're good. Yes. Yes.
Dude, that's so funny.
Yeah. I'm like, did he kill you even once? And he's like, no, not even one
Did he
time did he
attempt?
kill me. Yeah, did he attempt?
Yeah.
Oh, he said, I'm not going to not say he did, but I'm still standing here.
Yeah. I haven't stabbed anyone yet.
Okay. Point is, I really don't want to be the guy who was in charge of the company that had a huge head start and then blew it. And I use this all the time. I don't want to be the Blockbuster Video or the Kmart, Sears, JCPenney, Macy's that didn't see Walmart or Target or Amazon coming. To me, that's just embarrassing. And it's not even my company. This is Davey Coons' company. This is Davey Coons that started it. If we blew it, it would really probably be looked at more on him than me. But I just can't allow myself to. That's lame, dude.
Dude, you got decades invested into this thing.
Yeah.
So.
And to say that, yeah, I was in charge when it ran into the ground is just stupid.
I mean, I can relate to that feeling very intimately.
Okay, go ahead. Yeah.
Publishing a magazine as well, a smaller quarterly
Man.
magazine, but I remember just seeing them one by one folding, closing doors. Different publications in our industry shutting down, and I'm like, man, like, can't believe we're still surviving. And then you're like, we can't fail. Like, that would be so embarrassing to, like,
Yeah.
And eventually we got there where the business didn't make sense anymore.
Yes.
And like, it's so cool that Racer X still publishes a print magazine in this day and age.
Yes.
And I know you're not necessarily on the print side, but how do you think they justify continuing that business model when it's like so tough these days?
Yeah.
The workload alone, the cost, and just trying to still sell that to advertisers. Thankfully, you guys are so big that conversation is probably pretty easy.
That's a big part of it, just being established. And I think brands just say that's what we do. We, of course, we're going to buy an ad, but I'm glad you pointed it out. Yeah, the way we really break it down is the magazine is still Davey's thing all the way. I will write a story a month in there, but it's just literally like, hey, on the 20th, pen in your Cole Davey story. I'm not overseeing the direction of the magazine. Everything else I am in charge of because I want to be that forward-thinking guy. So whether at one point it was the website, I keep telling everybody we're no longer the website. We're now the video, podcast, social media side, also website. I want to be the next thing. What's next guy. So that works perfect because Davey, there's no one that wants to go through 1982 Supercross photos on this earth more than Davey Coombs. There is no one that's more into motocross than Davey Coombs. So that's the sandbox he likes to play in. Loves to tell the history stories. Loves the magazine side because he's a generation older than me. So the magazines are probably even more ingrained with him. Even when I was young, TV and media was starting to shift a little bit. So he's the magazine guy. I'm the digital guy, so to speak. And yes, I think the advertisers are like, we will still always support this because this is what we do. But there is always the worry that that's the current people. I can't say that the next
kid that comes in, like, why are we spending money with Racer X?
Yes, or anything published. And the main reason actually is because when you do something digitally, you can track how did it perform. And the hardest thing the magazine is missing is not enough people read magazines. It's just we don't know. There's no way to track it. And we're lucky that in this industry, a lot of decisions are made because people are enthusiasts. Even the check writers are enthusiasts, and they just do what they want to do. They just think it's cool to have an ad in the magazine. I would bet in most industries where every decision has to be based on a number on a piece of paper and a metric and an ROI, it'd probably be a lot harder. But motocross, I don't know if any of it pencils out. Every decision people are making, for the most part, is because they love it and they want to support it.
Well, the print magazine is a harder business to justify. Do you think there's something about print that simply just can't be replaced by digital?
Yeah, absolutely. So speaking of the Cole Davies story, we just a few days ago, I don't know when this pod comes out, but when the magazine with Cole Davies was shown, we put the Instagram post up at the cover. And yes, someone in the comments said, man, it wasn't Cole, it was just some random fan. There's nothing a rider could get that could match this printed magazine. You're on the cover. Like everything else they do.
That was the pinnacle forever.
Yeah, and there's something tangible. If you're Cole Davies, you could see yourself on TV, on a YouTube video, on a social media post. But there's not tangible goods. There's something about that.
You can frame that magazine cover and hang it on your wall forever.
Yeah, you can't do that with a YouTube thumbnail. It doesn't work. So there is that aspect. And I respect what you guys did with your magazine because I do feel, okay, eventually you ran into the wall of magazines aren't what they used to be. But you did try to be different. You did try to be forward-thinking and cultural in a way the other magazines weren't. You weren't just doing what everybody else was doing at all.
Yeah, that's what made it work. Yeah. But the whole vision was like this really high-quality, premium product.
Lifestyle.
That became unaffordable to produce.
Yes.
And it was like, if we sacrifice on that, then it's not even the same thing anymore. So
yes, you're right.
It became like, we still had the support, but the cost was growing, but the support wasn't
Yes.
And that it just became thinner and thinner, and to the point where it was like, we're not taking salaries. I'm like, okay, well, we can't do this.
Yeah.
So it's like,
Yeah. Labor of love. That's what I'm saying. You would have done that at 21 years old,
yeah, yeah, for a while.
but you can't forever.
Yeah. When I'm in my like mid 30s, I'm like, I have too much potential to not make a living doing this.
Yes. So what I've said, look, that if you're someone, and that's Davey and our publisher, Scott Wallenberg, who was selling ads for MXA in like literally like 1979 when he was a teenager. These guys come from the magazine world. I think that's disheartening. And like I said, I somewhere came to a crossroads where I'm like, I'm not going to be the guy who's always saying things used to be better and I wish it could go back, or how can we go back? I've had to remind over and over, although it is disheartening to know that what used to work doesn't work as well as it used to, think of the opportunity that didn't exist before that now does. What you're doing right here could not be done. There wasn't, even if you bought the cameras back then, where would you put this show?
Honestly, and I don't think I could technically do it from a time and logistical standpoint 2 years ago.
Really?
If I didn't have like all these tools to make my job more efficient.
Okay. So that's just the technology alone.
It's the technology alone.
Yes. Yeah. And then if the internet, YouTube, social media doesn't exist, where are you even putting this show? You got to call TV networks? That's not going to happen. So I try to explain, hey, to everybody, it is sad that the one thing is getting a lot harder to do. But think of how much easier these other, like, bro, I do a video where I walk around on my phone in the pits. I hit record and I upload it. And I
probably does well.
Yeah, and it does well. I don't even edit it. This didn't exist before. It's giving people a look they would have never had before. That's opportunity. We just have to be smart enough, as you know, in this business. We said the magazine, print is dollars and digital is pennies. People just don't pay what they used to. I don't know why a newspaper ad and a magazine ad was considered worth thousands of dollars and a banner on a website is worth $100. I don't know why. Why is websites are free? You had to purchase magazines and newspapers and people didn't think anything of that. That was normal. So that metric is tough. But at the same time, you can do stuff so nimble, so quickly, so inexpensively. You just need to embrace that. Now we've gone to the point where it's some of the stuff you're seeing out there is too cheap, and what I'm specifically talking about is, dude, there's these Facebook accounts. They're nameless, faceless. I don't even know what they are. And it's not even, I think it's AI written, so they're probably spending $0 on it. And it's like, Deegan or Jet said something somewhere, and it's like mashing up what they said, which isn't even necessarily what they meant. And I'm like, so now we've got too far with the crap content?
Just like slop.
Yeah. Yes. But you just have to embrace that opportunity because we're never going back. We're never going back to TV sitcoms. We're never going back to...
There's still ways to stand out, even though even though it's getting more and more diluted.
Yes.
Think how many podcasts are there? Like,
oh my God,
I can
dude.
find my niche,
Yes.
But you've seen a lot of change, as we've been talking about, from print to, then websites and blogs, and now YouTube, and then there's the social media, and then now whatever's coming next with podcasting, and beyond that, has this shift over time changed how you approach journalism?
Oh yeah, because you have to at some point. It's gonna sound crazy. You have to accept less quality. You do, because the time gets closer and closer and more immediate and more immediate. The effort that when the magazine was practically all we had, we used to say that we were a magazine with a website. Then we eventually became a website with a magazine. When the magazine was pretty much all we did, the effort we put into the proofreading and the proofreading and the proofreading and another. Now we're going to look at it, not just the Word doc. Now it's in color. Now we have to look at it again to make sure but we had 3.5 weeks to get that done. So
which also sounds crazy.
I know. And then we thought that was stressful.
Yeah.
We thought that was crazy. We were on deadline. I've been on a deadline every day of my life now for the last 20 years because you don't put something on a website in a day. What do you close?
Now you're like, we need like 10 content pieces every day.
Yes. So you eventually have to accept that it's going to be a little sloppier. Partially, that means you're going to have more mistakes, which sucks. But I don't know what to do about that. But it really means that your style has to become more raw. So The problem you guys ran into with your magazine was the premium model could not be upheld any longer. And your brand had already been built around that. So I am trying to pivot us to be a little more loose, a little more light, a little lower expectation. We're still giving you the info, but maybe now it's in 200 words, not 800.
I think that that's what people want anyways,
Yes.
because we've been fed like the polished content for so long. And now that with all of the technology and resources, like now everything is beautifully captured. Everything is well done with AI. Like everything you see is like, I don't just all the tools we have, like everything can be polished. And so in a world where like everything is over the top, like Instagram, everything's beautiful and amazing.
Yeah.
And like people want just real.
Mhm.
People want like something that's relatable and real and raw. That's why like the phone clip resonates way more.
Yes.
Like Wes Williams can spend $30,000 creating this masterpiece video.
Yeah.
And the dude like filming Hayden Deegan like at home on his iPhone is going to get way more views than that.
100%. Yeah, I used to say when I first started, and I was eventually doing more and more Racer X stuff, but I was still GNCC guy. Our competitors then were these massive publishing companies. We were the small company that had one magazine, which basically didn't exist in the publishing world. Like you guys had one magazine. Nobody has one magazine. Most magazines are part of a publishing company that's been bought and sold and merged and has 300 or 500 magazines. So every day we were like, dude, we were going against these behemoths, and we have one magazine in a small sport. And that was scary, right? But it's flipped completely now, where what people want is the exact opposite. And the more independent and small you can be, yeah, it was a battle to be, can we be as polished as those super professional, massive companies? And now it's a battle to be, can you be as real and raw as a guy with a cell phone? That's really become the battle. And what I think has happened is, in some ways, there's many reasons for this. But I think a lot of it is the media has been discredited so much. The term media, the media, is never meant in a positive way anymore. So I think people are like, I don't believe or trust the media. I trust this guy. This guy. He knows the real truth. Dude, when you go on YouTube, practically every ad now is a guy saying all the things you've heard about how to fix this medical ailment. They're wrong. The doctors, they are covering it up. I personally know the secret that they don't want you to know.
Dude, it's so true.
That's every freaking ad, man. So being real, and you have to move into that space. And I didn't even know this. I talked to a guy who did Deegan's videos originally, and he's like, I can never get him to talk into the camera. We have to be the camera person. They'll talk into it, but they would never do it themselves. I could never be like, here, you can have the camera. I don't even need to be here. They didn't want to do that. I was doing it on the weed show that I do for Racer X because it was another super fast, cheap way to do another video, because I knew, again, we have to be cheaper, faster, more nimble. That's the direction it's going. But I do hear that now where people are like, no, the you talking into the camera is part of the appeal because it just seems more trustworthy. And now we've been conditioned to believe that the media is out to get you, manipulate you, and the guy is the only one that can tell you the truth.
Is that kind of weird for you guys? Because for a long time, like the media outlets were the trusted source of information.
Oh, yeah.
And now everyone has their own channel.
Yeah.
So like, people don't need to go to Racer X to figure out what's going on with Chase Sexton. They can like watch his latest vlog.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
It's a great question, but honestly, that was a big fear we did have. And I would say that is one that didn't come to fruition. You know, is it harder to do a magazine these days? Yes. Is there more competition? Yes. A lot of things that you could see as like a problem on the horizon did come true. But we really thought that would be the biggest obstacle. But for whatever reason, I guess, here's my guess. No one can intake all of it. And it's like, if I could just have a clearinghouse, they could just tell me like, hey, I can't watch 3,000 hours of content this month. Could you just tell me what's interesting? I'll just go there. And in the end, if you want to know what's going on in the NFL, people still go to ESPN. You know what I mean? So we've survived that.
And you're not trying to like catch up with every football player every day.
Dude, you can't.
Yeah.
But they will tell you if a player says something about his coach in all the media that's out there, they'll let you know.
Yeah.
So
You guys are like a news aggregator, like take all the highlights of what's going on and distill it down into the top things that are happening.
Yes. So have not actually had that problem. But what I am wrestling with now is, it used to just be they post a video or they post a vlog or whatever, or they explain how their race went. We could say, hey, Chase Sexton said this. No problem. What's getting harder is now you're seeing the riders commenting on each other's posts. And it's like, dude, this is getting so not professional. Like, do we report on that? Like, should we be making breaking news on the RacerX website that says, hey, check out Hayden Deegan's comment to a Jet Lawrence post? How deep should we go? What level? And I know people love that and eat that up.
I love it. It's hilarious.
It is.
Yeah.
But we haven't made that news yet. We might mention that it happened, but we have not made that a headline yet. And maybe we should be. I don't know.
I think you guys have more substantial things to worry about than that. I think that let that live online as like its own thing that people can see. I think you guys can worry about the real things that are happening.
That's the direction we've gone right now, Ben, where I feel like if we go there, we maybe start
looking
into
TMZ.
That's the term people would use, right?
Yeah.
It starts looking TMZ.
Yeah, you don't want that.
Yeah. And we have the benefit of, since we've been around and we're secure, we don't have to chase every number, could we get more clicks or hits or likes or whatever if we did that? Yes. But because we're not scratching and clawing for our own existence, I think some people are like, man, I don't even feel comfortable doing it, but I have to, because that's the only thing that gets the traction and the numbers, and we're trying to establish ourselves. Since we're not trying to establish ourselves, we can pick and choose. There's plenty of people that don't do. They're just like, if I could find any nugget that I could blow out of proportion, it's going to get numbers, and that's all I care about. We don't have to do that.
If you've listened to the show for a while, you've probably heard me talk about Foreign Rider. What I really appreciate is the philosophy behind the brand, and the attention to detail is honestly kind of insane. Personally, I've been wearing the Supima t-shirt all summer. It's made from super soft, California-grown Supima cotton, and it uses a technique called flat lock stitching throughout for comfort and durability. And it's knit, dyed, and sewn in their hometown of Toronto. At first glance, you might think it's just a t-shirt, but when you wear it, you realize how much thought went into getting something so simple exactly right. That level of intention comes from the founder. He's been in the apparel industry for decades now, and he's one of the most authentic riders I've ever met. He literally rides every single day, no matter the weather. I don't know about you, but that's the kind of person I want making the products that I wear, and the type of authenticity that I want to align with. So if you're looking for some casual apparel that's built with real purpose, not flashy, not over-designed, just incredibly well made, check out Foreign Rider. I think you'll understand exactly what I mean the first time you put it on. My listeners can use code BEYOND at checkout for a special discount. That's code BYND at checkout at foreignrider.com. I think you guys are in a really good position in the industry with your history and your reach and just your following. Like, I think you're in a good spot. I think one thing I was thinking about leading into this interview was just the amount of change happening in the world.
Yeah.
Like we said, it started with print changing to digital, but now, we're in a day and age where people don't even go to websites that much because it's all on social media. And then, I think eventually that will phase into something different. Maybe it's like, so like being RacerX online, like your bread and butter at the moment is really the website. Do you fear this shift at all, especially with like Gen Z coming up? Like they're not going to websites.
Oh yeah. It's become a mission literally this year of like, so at one point here I am pitching everybody on like, hey, we're not a magazine with a website. We're a website with a magazine. Hey, don't be so sad that the old way is starting to fade. Be happy there's a website and you can publish if something happens in 5 minutes where before you had to wait a whole month. So that was what I was pitching everybody on, let's say 15 years ago or 10 years ago. Then I started saying like video is the future. We have to redouble our efforts on video. And I've hired some people that I knew more than me to help with that. But then this year I'm like, dude, I know that we have advertisers on the mag and we have advertisers on the website. We are going to have to build this social stuff. And if you build it, they will come. I hope. I mean, the problem is every one of these things, like I said, you went from a magazine ad paid thousands to a banner ad on a website that paid hundreds. There's even less money in these social spaces where there's almost no way to monetize it. Some of them. But we're going to become irrelevant if we don't do it. So we have to build it. So we did a lot more innovative things. And look, it's easy to research it. We're all on our phones all the time. So I'm just taking notes on this year, I'm like, I'm seeing a lot more Instagram posts. That's not the caption. The words are in the photo. And you just keep swiping and you're like, oh, this is interesting. We need to tell our stories in that space because they're not going to read it on the website. They are not. We can't abandon it. We have companies that have already invested and want to be on the website. We can't leave them in the ditch. People want to read a magazine.
You need to repurpose.
Yeah, we can't leave them in the ditch. We have to repurpose. But the problem is when you're only adding and not taking away, you're like, how do you find enough time in the day? So you have to constantly try to figure out how to be even more efficient and more efficient. I mean, dude, again, we only had to do a magazine at one point. The budget hasn't tripled, but now we have 3 times more stuff to do.
I think you guys are at another perspective shift. We're a magazine with a website, and then it became we're a website with a magazine.
Yes.
And I think the next step will probably be we're a media outlet with a website.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you can tell people to go to the website all you want. They're just not going to. So
you gotta meet people where they are.
It's so funny. I literally repeat this probably every 3rd week. Like we have a meeting every Wednesday, and I'll just say, all I'm trying to do is put the info that people want in the place where they want it. That's all I'm trying to do. And if you just use that as your guide, that was a magazine, that was a website, now it's social or it's YouTube, then you're suddenly, you almost feel like the freedom of like, oh yeah, we're just doing the same thing we always did. We're giving the info people want in the place where they want it. The place has changed, but we're always just figuring out where do people want it. And that's going to change. But it's a lot better than saying we're abandoning what we used to do. We're doing the same thing. We're just picking a different place. Yeah.
It's hard to tell what's really going to be relevant next just because things are changing so fast.
Oh, yeah.
How are you thinking about AI in regards to what you guys do?
It's scary because, we're always going to try to be real and not have AI certainly write our posts or our stories. And by the way, just to see, we have never actually posted it, but we're just like, let's see what it could do. It gets the info, but most of it sucks. It's like we would never write it that way. Now, you can refine it and hit the refine button, and you can work on it, and it could probably eventually figure out your voice.
You can teach it a style and a tone.
You can teach it a style and a tone. But to build the infrastructure, to never let like the one time it isn't your style and tone accidentally get out the door. It's a really...
You also lose trust.
Even one time, and it's like, dude, those are our words, but they're really not. We wouldn't have said that, but it looks like we said that. It drives me freaking nuts. Even when we do not AI. Like when the magazine comes out, we have to build a social caption saying like, hey, this month in the magazine, like 1 or 2 times I saw a caption that's like, those aren't the words we should be using on Instagram. We wrote them, but I still was like, we should not have written that. We took our own words out of context, and now we're hanging ourselves on our own platform. So I'm like, I'm going to proofread every one of these captions from now on because we cannot ever let that word not represent who we are. So even with the filtering and they can learn the style, it's still very scary that someday, if you have 2 or 3 people to read everything 7 days a week, you could probably always prevent it from accidentally happening. But dude, this stuff is so loose. There's times where I'm on the track in practice and something happens and I'm putting it on Slack and then another person's grabbing it and, hey, can you get a photo? And we don't have time to be like, stop everybody. Let's hold a meeting right now and make sure we do this right.
Yeah, because the wheels just spinning so fast.
Dude, absolutely. Like it is wing and a prayer quite often. That's how media is because we have these phones that allow you to do it. But really have to be careful. And that's the scariest part on our end. Can you find some efficiencies? Yes. Can I fully let AI just do it? No. But the bigger problem is other people are going to do it. Again, these rando Facebook accounts with every stupid motocross term, like 2 or 3, they're like literally 2 or 3 rando motocross terms jammed together. That's what the account is. Like there's one that's literally like Fox Engine Motocross. That's the name of the Facebook page or account or whatever you want to call it. And you can tell it's just AI slop.
Yeah.
But if you're a fan that's somewhat into it,
Yeah. Well, I mean,
all
what
you
if there's a dude that's like you,
Yeah.
who's an extreme enthusiast
Yeah.
that didn't have that opportunity to break in. He's at home. He's got these powerful tools to do the work of your entire office. And suddenly he creates Racer Z.
Yeah.
And it
Yeah.
blows up.
Yeah.
And he's got these AI agents just working for him. And like, I don't know, though. It's a weird world.
The scariest part always is not what the people are doing or what we're doing. It's how are people going to receive it? If enough people see that and don't think it's bad, now I got problems. You know what I mean? Like, some of this stuff that you see on these random Facebook accounts is terribly written, terribly worded, not really the whole story, a complete mischaracterization. And you'll go into the comments and most people are like, bro, that's not even what happened. Are you even watching? Like, that's not even what he said. Nice job, clickbait idiot. For as long as people see it that way, you're okay.
Yeah.
But you really have to know motocross well to be able to see through. That's not what Deegan said. That's not what Jet meant.
I'll see like completely fabricated stories. Like I'll see
Dude.
on YouTube shorts, there'll be like a story about like Deegan and how his mother died and he's racing for her. And like,
yeah, I saw that one.
I'm like, what?
Yes.
What is this?
So as long as people can see through it like that, you're fine. But I don't know how long that lasts. The Deegan is racing for his mom.
I was like, what?
Yeah, and they showed a picture of her and they did like a black and white to make it look sad.
Yeah, I'm like, what is this?
Yes, totally not true. Dude, most of them are complete mischaracterizations of what's going on. But I do feel like, for now, enough fans are informed enough to be like, that's garbage. That's not true. For as long as that holds, we're good. But look, those are motocross fans that really know what's going on. There are probably things you're not as interested in. Like, I don't really follow mountain bike racing that closely. If I got fed the same story
You'd be
there,
like, wow, that's an incredible
I'd be
story.
like, holy crap, the guy's mom died? That's crazy, man.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even know. So that's
Weird.
I don't know the end of that one. I don't know. You just have to hope that getting it right triumphs overall. But I don't know how long that holds, man.
Yeah. And we're talking about over time as technology progresses, the quantity required of output progresses.
Yeah.
How do you maintain longevity in a hamster wheel that's continuing to accelerate? Like, how do you not just completely just get burnt out and throw your hands up? Like,
yeah. It's weird. The burnout thing just doesn't happen for me. I'm lucky on that. But you are in the constant race to be more efficient. You do almost always feel like you're not accomplishing it. It was much easier when it was, if the magazine gets out the door and it doesn't have a bunch of mistakes in it, the job is done. The TV job, like I said, is the easiest because at the end of the show, as long as I don't feel like I totally blew it, the job is done. The media side, there's no way to know. Even if you put the YouTube video out, you're like, but is that what we should have done? Or is it not really done until we do 5 YouTube shorts out of this? Is that what actually we should be doing? Or was this video that we did not even a topic people care about? And that was a complete waste. That's what will all consume you. You never know anymore, even what you're doing now. This is your vision. Seems cool. But how do you know for sure this is even what your time was best spent on? There's no way to know, man. That's the scariest part of all.
Yeah, because you can only do so much.
Yes. So you can't do all 5 things. So you're hoping that the 2 things you picked were the right ones. That's the hardest part.
We've been talking a lot about journalism.
Yeah.
I'd love to know how you feel broadcasting is different from journalism, because I think there's a lot of overlap maybe in the skills, but it's 2 very different things. What's the difference between your role as a broadcaster and a journalist?
It's similar in more ways than people would think. And there is one big difference. So I'll start with the things that are similar. I think people would be shocked how much they want us on the air to just, you guys are experts. Tell us what you see. Tell us what you think. Please give us even more. I think there's this theory that they're telling us what to say in our ear, or they want us to promote or say this. Like,
kind of what I thought.
Dude, like those Wednesday meetings, they're pretty much there to be like, Stu and RC, you have all this knowledge. Give it to us. Like we're going to ask you all these questions. So you put all your opinions out there, and we'll be like, oh, now that we know that, how do we get it in the show? Give us more, give us more, give us more. Give us more of your knowledge, more of your opinions, more of your stories, because we can't know what they know. We need to know, so then we can be like, okay, how do we get it out on Saturday? People, I think, are very surprised to hear that. And they really don't want us to appear that we are there for the series. We are people watching the race and reacting just like the fans would, and they just have more knowledge. They really want it to feel that way. So I think that part, as journalism, it's actually very similar. Whether I'm in the press box writing the story about who won, or I'm announcing it on TV, it's actually the same. Just one's written and one's spoken. Yeah, they really, and I give huge credit to Ken, our head of broadcast at Feld, who came from the NBA and NBA.com. He was there when they started NBA.com. The first time the NBA was going to be its own media. And their question when they started this was, hey, wait, how are we going to cover our own bad news when something goes bad? It's easy to be like, hey, the All-Star game was fun, and here's your world final, the finals world champ. What happens when a player gets arrested? What happens when there's like a scandal? It's going to happen. And they had to think about this, and they're like, well, look, if we don't cover it, people are going to know that we're not covering it. So we have to cover it. And as long as we cover it, we're fine. Like, it happened. We acknowledge that it happened. So he works on the Feld side now, and that's always been our guiding light. Like, if something good or bad happens, this year there's been controversy over the AMA calls, And notice when there's a controversial one weekend, when you watch the next weekend show, they talk about it. They don't pretend the AMA didn't make a call that people don't agree with. Here's the rule. Here's what they said. You can agree or not agree, but here's what happened. So we use that. Again, we don't do the full TMZ. We don't really go full into this guy commented on this guy's thing. We probably need to be a little above that.
But address what's happening.
Address
The elephant in the room.
Absolutely.
People aren't stupid.
People aren't stupid.
Yeah.
That's it. As soon as we appear to not acknowledge something that happened, like Barsha had an unbelievably scary crash. We're not going to pretend that doesn't happen in Supercross. Of course not. Because they would see through that instantly. So that part is actually quite simple, quite easy. And if anything, they're just trying to get even more out of the analysts. JT, RC, Stu, whoever it might be. ACJB on Race Day Live. The big difference thing is that on the TV show, I am just the announcer guy. I'm not there to be Jason Weigandt. I'm not there to be the star of the show. My opinion, my take. I really try to not have that side that I'm talking to you here, or when I do the weed show or whatever. I do a pod with JT and Mathis on Sunday. That's an entirely different person. We're not making jokes about the athletes in the same way, because that's not, when I watch another sport, half the time I don't know even the name of the play-by-play announcer. I just wanted to announce. I don't care what you think, dude. I got plenty of avenues. If I want to get that out, I'll do that there.
That's an interesting balance to be like, hey, just be yourself and call the race like you see it.
Yeah.
But you have maybe a personal bias. If there's a battle, like you're rooting for you might like them both, but like you might have a dude you're hoping wins, but you can't let that out. You have to stay neutral.
Yes.
So like you have to really think about, I'm calling it like it is. I'm telling it from my experience and I'm analyzing this race, but I can't give away that like maybe I'm kind of wanting this dude to win.
No, we always say in the, everybody says as a journalist, you're rooting for stories, not people, right? Like Ken Roczen winning the Supercross title is unreal. Of course, if that's coming to fruition and he's getting closer and closer to the point lead,
tell that story.
We're going to tell that story. We're going to build that up. Are we rooting for him more than Hunter Lawrence? We can't go that far, but you certainly want every person in the audience to know this story and celebrate it, because they either don't know and need to, or they do know, and they would, again, think it's nuts that you're not bringing it up. But I'm saying, like, I don't really do the catchphrase thing that much. I try not to be too funny or too jokey or too one-linery, because I think then that's me trying to put the spotlight on myself, and that's not what the TV show is for. The TV show is for Ken Roczen and Hunter Lawrence and the fans to get to know them and root or cheer or not like them. That's what the TV show is for. It is not really for them to have an opinion on me. There's plenty of other forums for me to do that. That didn't exist back in the day. I'll give you my take and my stuff later. but I really try. You see me on the podium at Loretta's, there's no joking going on the podium because that's that kid's chance to shine. It's not the time for the announcer to show everybody how witty he is. I got plenty of places for that. So that to me is actually the biggest difference. You want my takes? I'll give you them somewhere else.
Totally.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of a skill from journalism. I know journalism, there's room for like personality and everything, but really when you're telling the story of a rider, you're removing yourself from that story. So it's like the skill of like, this isn't about me. We're telling this story.
Yes.
And I think you can carry that over to your broadcasting and like intentionally not make this about me, as easy as it is. Even in this interview, there's been a few times where I'm like, oh, well, my story is blah, blah, blah. You know, there's a very intentional skill of like stepping back for a minute and being like, okay, this isn't my story.
Right.
I'm not going to try to like show how smart I am right now. I'm just going to communicate what's happening in a way that these fans can understand it and that's entertaining, and like, let that be it.
That is 100%. Yeah, what it is. And there's many, I mean, dude, it's easy now because I have so many other places to do that. If you listen to the Sunday night race review pod with me, Mathis, and JT,
you guys are having fun.
It is not remotely like the Jason Thomas and Jason Weigandt on the TV show. Not that we're complete robots on TV or we don't have takes or we're hiding information. We're there to make you laugh, which is not the number one job of the TV show. And the other thing is, if we're going to get more info, I want to hear it from RC and Stu, not me. So if we do have time for that, I'm there to get more out of them. We want to hear from them, not me. Yeah.
It is cool that we can hear from such legends in the sport. I feel like RC is so talented at speaking and storytelling. And I feel like sometimes on air, he overthinks it. Because I think like when I'm listening to him talk, he'll stumble on his words or forget what he's saying. And I'm like, come on, you're so well spoken.
Yeah.
Stop thinking about it and you'll do better. Like, I think when you're thinking about what you're saying, how's this going to sound or how are people going to react? Then
absolutely.
You just immediately lose your train of thought. You have to just be present in the moment.
Yeah, it's like riding. When you were racing, you would probably intentionally do stuff when you were practicing, work on things, right? But when you're in the moto, you cannot do that. You just go. And you're hoping that the things you intentionally practice just happen automatically. Yeah, you cannot on the air. So I do feel like that happens sometimes. And everybody's trying to be, and I don't think he wants to be controversial. And sometimes we're saying stuff that a guy's not doing good. And we kind of got to say it. And that sucks. But that's ultimately the job. And like I said, I think that's probably all broadcasting. They're probably always trying to get, whether it's the ex-racer or the ex-quarterback or the ex-pitcher, give us more, man. And if you got to piss some people off, so be it. But most of the time, dude, it's like 90-10. Most of the time, you're actually using your knowledge to praise someone and say, Ken Roxon is doing this. Awesome. And Hunter Lawrence is so good at this. Much more than you're saying, this dude sucks. Much more.
I love hearing that they encourage you guys just to be yourself and, be yourself, use your knowledge. I feel like I always thought that maybe they were in your ear, but I also think that it probably is more complex than you guys just hanging out and talking about the race. Yeah. I think there's a lot more going on in the background. So what is the complexity of a live broadcast? Because when you're watching it as a fan, it seems very simple and like cohesive and smooth. Yeah. But I think behind the scenes, there's like this whole orchestra happening of probably just chaos. It's organized chaos.
Yeah.
There's a lot going on, I'm sure.
When the bikes are on the track and actually racing, there's very little of that. They don't talk to us much at all. Then when the race ends and then you've got these things to get to, that's when it starts getting wild. The first 6 minutes of a Supercross broadcast are the hardest part because that is where we've got, like, say, whatever it is, 5 or 6 minutes to, you have the thing at the beginning of the show where you're showing like a drone shot of the stadium. Here's two riders walking in, which every sport does that. Here's the guy coming off the bus. For us, it's here's the dude in the pits. Then we have our music intro thing. Then it's, say, like, one thought from Ricky on this, one thought from Ricky on that. Then we go to Will, one of the reporters, for here's something you didn't know about that I just found out today. Then it's back to us to talk 250s. And then JT, here's something you didn't know about 250s. And by the time we send it to JT, it's usually like the gate drop is 90 seconds away. So JT, you have 84 seconds to get it done. But if we screw up and take 30 seconds longer than we did in rehearsal, yeah, he's screwed. So that part, and we have graphics and we have all these stories you want to tell, that's the hardest part. That is the organized chaos for sure. And we're all a team, because if someone talks too long or too short, now you've thrown the whole thing off.
When the racing is going, do you have like a producer in your ear saying like, all right, we need to go trackside now, or we need to do this? Or
that's the only thing. They will tell us like Will can add or JT can add or whoever the reporters are.
And do you guys request, like, if the guys trackside are like, hey, I have something, can like give me some time?
It's always them pitching us. It's always them. Say we're watching a battle with Garrett Marchbanks. Maybe we'll talk to Marchbanks. He's on the screen. She'll say, hey, I have more info on Marchbanks I can add. And then the producer's got to decide like, no, man, we don't have enough time. Or yes. And then they just say, Will has more on Marchbanks. And we can say, Marchbanks looking good, Will.
Yeah, so she's not just randomly on the spot, like all of a sudden.
No, never. No. Because my fear is, look, they know that we're watching and announcing the whole time. I never want to throw it to them blindly, because what if she's talking to a mechanic at that time? You know, she's trying to get more info if a guy's bike broke. And I'm like, Will, what do you got? And she doesn't have the headset on because she's talking to the mechanic. So they're always telling us when they're ready. It can't go the other way because we're blind. They know we're always talking. I don't know. They could be talking to someone. So I got to wait until they're ready. So that is probably the only real dance that there is while bikes are on track. As soon as that ends, and then we got to get in this, you got to get in that. Here we got to show the schedule. You got to show the results. Got to show the point standings. Now we got to go to the podium. But the Salt Lake race, I was not there for TV. I wasn't on the schedule, but I wanted to go for Racer X purposes at least. So our producer, Chris Bond, is like, dude, you should watch some of it in the truck, because they've never been in the booth, and I've never been in the, like, they can't. We have our places we have to be. You know what I mean? The drummers never played guitar, and the guitarist is never sitting behind the drums. So I'm like, yeah. Then it's real organized chaos. What they're doing in their truck to make it work is mind-boggling. And they're keeping us out of that.
That's the production.
Yes. So what people don't realize, our director, Jeff Manhart, an NBA game, dude, they inbound the ball, they dribble up the court. It's just one camera for probably 2-3 minutes. The camera just goes back, one camera. They don't have to do anything. In Supercross, I think it's like every 11 seconds or so, they have to do another camera, another camera, another camera. Outdoors, we have 15 cameras. Maybe every 20 seconds.
You're not just following the leader. You're tracking multiple battles and storylines, yes, and like action, and switching from drone to this cam to that cam.
Yes. So this dude, Jeff Manhart, our director, has to be on that. Like, people are going to say, oh, why are you showing the battle for 7th when you should be showing the lead? That's a different story. I'm saying whatever you do choose to watch, let's say it's the leader of the race, to just follow him for one whole lap is insanity. It's literally him saying, okay, camera 6, take green 47. Camera 5, green 47 is coming to you. Be ready. Put a graphic up on green 47. All right, take camera 5. Camera 4, green 47 is coming to you. Camera 2, we're not going to do green 47 anymore. You got to go back to 37 on blue.
That's one dude.
That's one dude the whole time. If he falls asleep at the switch at any point, and I'm telling you, there's another camera cut every 12 seconds. Go back, someone, watch Supercross, and look at how often that camera is cutting. That doesn't happen automatically. That's a guy telling them. So he says it, and there's a guy sitting next to him who hits the button. But they also got to tell the camera guy, when they come to you, here's who you're shooting. You're not shooting third, you're shooting first. Then they also got to decide. We have a spotter that's saying like, hey, 3rd and 4th are starting to get close. Keep your eyes on it. Okay, now we're going to have to switch to that. Or one of the top riders just went down. He's in the middle of the pack. We got to go to that. Supercross is easier because you can follow a guy with one camera, like from the very top. So you can always just keep a camera on the leader. Outdoors, you can't do that. No one camera can see the whole track. So it gets even harder. So when we have a situation where we're watching the battle for 3rd and the 2nd place guy tips over, we have a whole nother room back there that's looking through every camera cut, hoping that they got it. And most of the time we'll go to replay and they'll be like,
dude, the fact that you guys can just dig up that footage, put together a replay that quickly is just insane.
And I know that everyone's going to say, you all suck at your job. Why didn't you have it? And I'm like, how are we supposed to know the guy in 2nd was going to crash? How would you have known? If you got Ken Roxon and Eli Tomac battling for 2nd, How did you know that the guy in the lead was about to tip over? There's no possible way to know in advance. Yes. So you're taking the best guess at what's going to have the most compelling thing. And then sometimes someone that's not there tips over. Most sports don't have to deal with that. They have one ball. You can see every player in one shot. And by the way, go watch MotoGP, other forms of racing. Guys crash off screen all the time because they also don't know the 7th place guy is about to crash when they're showing you a battle for the lead. It's just the nature of the beast. You can't compare them. Yeah.
It's such a complex orchestration to bring a live race to television.
Yes.
Between cameras and audio and announcing and running to ads and it's just insane.
It is insane.
What are some of the biggest things that can go wrong?
Like I said, during the race, it's actually pretty simple. The biggest fear I always have is when it's time to throw it to something, we're going to something. The biggest fear I have is that that's not what we're supposed to go to. And the worst case scenario would be you're throwing it to one of those reporters, JT or Will or whoever it might be, and it wasn't supposed to go to them and they're not ready. That will be the worst case scenario because now we all, and they especially, are going to look like fools because it's going to look like they were not ready, even though I was the one that did it wrong. You know what I mean? It's going to look like, what, did they not know? I could screw that up at any point. I could throw that and completely ruin their night.
Has that ever happened to you?
Well, what I do, it only happened once, not on these shows. I had a Red Bull truck race, but I do it very generically. Like if you watch, very rarely to the podium, I usually just say, let's go down to the podium. I very rarely say who's doing the interview and what rider, even though I know 99.9%. What if their mic breaks? What if, I don't know, the backdrop falls down or something? The less specific I can be, the more room we have to potentially have something go haywire and not look like it went haywire, right? The only time I really ever messed it up was I was doing a truck race for Red Bull, and I just said that we were going to the start with one of the reporters, but she was not in the start. She was like halfway down the track, and I thought it was a report before the race started, but it was like a different segment of like, here's who the fans think is going to win, so it wasn't the right setup, and that did mess her up because it's like it would be pretty random for her to bring that up herself. I was supposed to ask her. But that was the closest I ever came to like really messing it up, but mostly because I'm so worried. And if you ask our producer, Chris Bond, the thing I ask most is what's next? What's next? What's next? What's next is the only thing you can screw up. I mean, there's people that are about to hit a button. Like if you say, we talked to Jet Lawrence earlier about his foot injury, but they're about to hit the button on something about Sexton, we all look like complete idiots. You have to do that one right. You cannot say the wrong thing. That's the only real way that I can screw up, I feel.
I feel like one good skill to have in that position is to be good at improvising.
Yes.
So that if for some reason you do get put on the spot when you weren't expecting it, just being able to kind of figure it out in the moment rather than that awkward, like deer in the headlights.
Oh, yeah.
If you can just say something and then pass the ball back and then nobody knows.
You're still just people, man. If something really dumb happens, like, look, Tomac broke his tooth on a trophy.
Worst case, you're in some memes and like the week sucks.
Yes.
But
Tomac broke his tooth on a trophy.
Yeah.
There's no way you know this coming. You just have to laugh.
You feel bad for him, but it's like so embarrassing.
Yes. Yeah. And you just have to eventually acknowledge it and laugh. The improv thing, I think that is like one of the few times that like maybe everybody's ego comes into play where it's like you want to show that you can handle the pressure. Because honestly, to me at least, the show's not that nerve-wracking. But you do want to, the couple of moments where you really got to handle business, you want to believe you can step up. So maybe that's the one time that you really want to handle it, to prove you can handle it. And I put a social media clip out there a couple years ago where we're rehearsing for a pre-race show, and these bombs are going off in the back. Opening ceremonies is going off. And I'm just casually saying, yeah, we'll do this. Okay, yeah, no problem. Because I'm always trying to show the whole crew that no matter what we are planning, no big deal. It's no big deal. It's no big deal. Oh, we're going to change it? No big deal. And I think that's a little bit of to make them feel more at ease, that I'm not going to get mad or lose my cool. But I also think it's like the pride of your job. Like that's one of the most challenging elements. Every athlete wants to show when it's nut crunch time in the fourth quarter that they're not going to lose their cool. That's the closest where we're going to get in our lame piece of work. I'm just a broadcaster. So you want to show that if something goes sideways, yeah, no problem.
Like Michael Jordan, dude, the fourth quarter,
Yeah.
2 seconds from the buzzer, he's more locked in than ever.
Yes, exactly. So there's a little bit of pride there where it's like, if something goes sideways, I really want to show everybody that will not bother me.
How do you prepare for a live event versus something that's like planned or scripted? Like for me, preparing for a podcast, I have weeks to research my guests and think about questions that would be interesting to me to ask. For a live broadcast, you have no idea what's going to happen. You have storylines coming into it. Maybe you can research, what's happening with those athletes and what's going on in their head. But like, how do you prepare for a live event where whatever's going to unfold is very unpredictable?
It's actually easier though, because that does most of the work for you. We laugh about these calls that I'm mentioning we have, and a good portion of the stuff we discuss never even materializes in the race, and it never gets used. So this type of show that you're doing, and certainly I've done many of those myself, that does take actual research because you're trying to steer it in the direction like, this is the topic I really want to find out about this person, and I need to make sure that we get those questions in. The race unfolds the way it unfolds, and then we just follow behind it. So to me, yes, I understand there's a certain level of you're live on television and that sounds scary. Maybe for some it would be. For me, it's not. So if you take that element out, which for me, it's not an element, it's actually easier.
It's just about being present in the moment. That's all
it.
it is.
That's it.
You got to take yourself out of the fact that you're live on TV.
Yes.
Just be present in the moment. You're in a professional setting, but you're watching the race with your friends and you're talking about what's happening.
And it's such a team thing. So what is awesome, what I learned when I first started doing, quote unquote, the big time TV, when I first started doing Pro Motocross in 2009, that was the first time that I was really broadcasting as a team. I was used to going to the races on my own as a reporter. And my job for Racer X was to get all the information by myself. The GNCC TV shows were pretty small crew. When I finally was on a real live broadcast, it takes a big crew. We're talking 40 or 50 people, but everybody's rowing the boat in the same direction. The audio guy is like, I got this part handled. And the graphics guys, I got this part handled. And our tape room, she's like, I got this part handled. And that part is so fun that you feel like, look, man, we could all ruin each other, but I got your back and you got my back. And that's that team thing that, when you're doing the magazine, it probably felt like this. Doing this project, there's no team right now. So I really enjoyed that part, pulling in the right direction. And this is going to sound so freaking lame, man. But when I was just trying to do public speaking in high school and I was in the plays, I was not a dancer, not down with the dancing. It was not a skill that I had nor wanted to get. So the people who did the dances were working on their deal for months. And then like the high school musical time rolled around. Maybe 2 weeks before the show, you'd do the full rehearsal and you'd be like, damn, look at them go. I had nothing to do with that. I didn't even see them rehearse. I had no idea what they were cooking, but they're pretty freaking good at what they do, which I have no interest in doing. But you had this pride in like, they've been working on their stuff for 3 months and I've been working on my stuff for 3 months.
It all comes together.
And when we all will come. Yeah. So I love that part. And that's why I stress so much that they're not telling us what to do. They're so adamant that like, we hired you guys because you're good at what you do. All of you, your audio people, your graphics people, RC, Stu, we hired you because you're good. Just give us you. And the rest will handle itself.
I've been working with 805 Beer for close to a decade now. And to me, it's much more than just a beer. I feel like they represent a way of living. 805 was born on California's Central Coast, where life moves to the rhythm of surf, motorcycles, music, and the outdoors. Whether you're coming off a ride, hanging out with friends, or watching the sunset at the end of an awesome day, 805 is right there with you. And what I respect most is their commitment to sustainability. This is their home, and they treat it that way. Conserving water, reducing waste, and constantly thinking about how to do things better for the future. They support the athletes, the events, and the culture that we all care about. But more than anything, they support a lifestyle that's real. That's why 805 has been a staple in my life for so long. Dude, you've covered so many athletes across multiple generations and eras in the sport. Is there anyone that comes to mind as maybe like who would be the most fascinating athlete that you've ever covered?
Ooh. Let me first tell this story. One other lesson for the kids out there. You got to treat everybody with the full respect because you do not ever know when that person is going to be in a different position.
It's a small industry, dude.
The best example ever is Jacob Hayes, arena cross champ. Decent team green guy at Loretta's. Knew him since he was a kid. Didn't quite, get to the race winning Supercross level that he probably could have or hoped to, but still had a good career, grinding it out in arena cross and as a privateer in Supercross. He is now Jet and Hunter Lawrence's agent. Imagine if for the 10 years he raced, I was just like, yeah, beat it, loser guy.
Mm-hmm.
Arena cross champ. Who cares, man?
Be like, he wouldn't answer your call.
Yeah, then you would know when you're talking to him now, in the back of his mind, he'd be like, oh, he didn't care when I was getting 10th, did you? But now you want to talk. People see through that so quickly. So I've always tried to treat every rider the same. And it's very easy to just remember something about their race to show them that you are actually paying attention. It goes so far, dude, because guys end up being team managers that you would never have thought, or his story. So you have to keep that in mind. So I try to treat everyone the same because you never freaking know. And I don't want them to think I'm two-faced 10 years later when they're in a completely different position. As far as covering the athletes, it took a long time on the Supercross motocross side to get to the level where they're really telling you stuff. GNCC guys had no outlets. They were revealing things instantly about injuries they'd had or people didn't know about, whatever struggles they were having, some on the record, some off. That was really enlightening and cool that they trusted me with that. A lot harder to get to that trust in this world. I definitely wasn't there during like the Reed Stu days and I was breaking in. I mean, it is hilarious when I tell Stu the stories now. Like, yeah, I was there. I was standing back there. Like now we're like best buds, But it was like, yeah, I was there in your garage that day with like 30 other people just standing back there like, oh my God, I'm in James Stewart's garage. I cannot leak any of this. I have to have trust. It's a lot different now. And we've actually hashed out a lot of the stuff, what he thought then and what I thought then. And we had no idea what the journalist thought of what the athlete was actually going through then. It's really fun actually to unpack that. Dude, I've told RC stories about interviews that he did with me that he doesn't remember. He's like, I really said that? And I'm like, heck yeah, you did. Because to me, that was the most important part, the interview with me. To him, it was one of 3 bazillion interviews that he's done, right? So what has happened now is a lot of the riders, then you do get to that point, and they do tell you things that you're like, why are they even telling me this? The guy who is the most open, for sure these days, everybody's favorite is Kevin Windham. If you do a Kevin Windham interview, he will tell you the ups, the downs, the horrifically bad personal stuff. He's all about it. And I'm assuming that this is a catharsism for him. It's him exercising his own demons or ghosts or whatever they are. He doesn't have to tell anybody this stuff. He's not even racing. He could do no interviews at all if he wanted to. He comes to Loretta's for fun. He hangs out with us in the tower. He tells you what he thinks. He tells you what he's been through. He tells you what's going on in his life. And maybe for him, that makes him feel better. I'm certainly not begging him to do it. But wow, you see the highs and lows of this. And Stu, there's a lot of that. He was always pretty mysterious when he raced. You get his perspective on things is so different than anyone else's because his life was so different. The pressure he was under was so different. The expectations were so different. And like we joke now, he had a perfect season in 08. Doesn't even race outdoors for a few years. Gets on a Suzuki, wins the first 2 motos of the year. And he's like, on the TV show, you guys are already saying, will there be another perfect season? It was only round 1. And I'm like, yeah, but you're James Stewart, dude. Like, I thought out of respect for you and how good you are, that was what you wanted to probably hear. Like, we know how good you are, even if you didn't race the last 3 years. And he's like, no, that was like the unreal. He's like, I knew I wasn't going to be perfect that year. I wasn't that level that year. And I'm like, wow, you're James Stewart. We never thought there were any doubts of any kind at any time. And then he would be like, no, we were struggling with this. I knew I was off here. I knew Dunge was going to get me here because of this. And we're like, dude, at the time, we had no idea the insecurities.
There was so much more. These riders were so much more elusive before social media and YouTube and all this stuff. Like,
absolutely.
They were just these superheroes that that were larger than life that would show up on Saturday or Sunday, and you'd just be in awe, but then they go grind in silence during the week.
Yes.
And now,
Because they've had the fear of losing that, would you ever think they did? Those guys? Figure they thought they got it covered every time,
everything
right?
was a secret. They stubbed their pinky toe and they
Oh,
can't
yeah.
tell anyone. You
Oh,
know
yeah.
what I mean?
Yes.
It's so funny.
And it's so different now.
Yeah.
Yeah, one time, I mean, we get into this bench racing complaint sessions about things like everybody else. Like I said, I'm a forward-thinking guy. And at one point, someone's like, you think it's easier or harder now? I'm like, dude, it's way better, way easier now. It continues to get, the riders continue to get better at doing media, doing their own media, not.
I think we're really involved with each rider's
Yes.
personal storyline now, which is really cool.
Yeah, and not, you don't feel that that was the way it was back then, right?
Back then, you had your own interpretation of these characters
Yes.
based on their podium interviews and their riding style.
Yeah,
And,
that's about it.
and like
About it.
now, you're getting like this really cool glimpse into their life and their personalities. And like, I feel like as a fan, like your relationship with these athletes is so much more rich. And like, whether you're a Deegan fan or a Lawrence fan or a Sexton fan or a Tomac fan, you kind of really know who these people are.
Oh, yeah.
It's super cool.
Yes, and honestly, I don't think there was ever as much to hide as they thought. I think a lot of it was just, well, this is the way you're supposed to do it, right? We didn't even know why. We were supposed to do it this way, right? And then as people started to not do it all secretive, like, hey, nothing.
Now like they're all training together.
Yeah,
And,
it's like, wait, it's fine, actually. Nothing, the world didn't blow up. Dude, I used to say all the time, the inside of those trucks, those guys are so loose on race day, and I think it's a coping mechanism. They're so nervous. Look, you raced. I'm sure you know the feeling of knowing your moto's coming.
Dude, you're stressed all day until it's over.
Yes. So can you imagine doing it when your paycheck's on the line? How much that would ramp up?
Yeah, hundreds of thousands of dollars on the line.
Yes, your legacy and people's opinions on you and all this stuff. So I think most of the riders are way looser on race day than you would think, because I'm sure they're overcompensating to try to not tighten up. So I don't know. I don't remember if you talked about this with Mathis on the pod you did with him. Dude, he used to go into the Cowie truck and just light Villapoto up. Like the trash talk was ridiculous. And it was usually telling him how fast Stu was, and Stu's jumping something you're not. And I'm like, what are you doing, man? And he'd go in and talk to Chad Reed. Chad would have an opinion on something, and Steve would be like, nah. I'd be like, yo, you can't just say that to Chad Reed, man. That's Chad Reed. And he's like, but what I realized, he did mention this part in your show, which I told him this, and he said it on the show. I forgot that he had already spent 5 years sitting on the bumper of the test box van with Chad at the Yamaha track. To him, disagreeing with Chad was no big deal. To him, talking trash to a rider before the main, he had done that. He was a mechanic. So he's doing this all the time. And the old team manager for Kawasaki, Mike Fisher, one time pulls us aside. And I'm like, oh, we're finally going to get it. It's finally going to be like, you guys need to get out of here. And he's like, hey, don't tell Ryan this, but we really like this, and keep it going because it loosens everybody up. After the final practice of the day, you got 2.5 hours with nothing to do. The bike's done. You've analyzed the lines on the racetrack. There's nothing to do except sit there and stress on it. And I was like, what?
Yeah, some comedic relief, man.
Yes. So the more I found that out, like Wyndham would say, like, the less I'm thinking about the racing, the better I'm going to do. And now the riders with their vlogs, dude, you watch the This Is Lawrence show that our guy Tommy Tenders puts together for the Lawrences.
Yeah.
You're like, is Hunter Lawrence really like that on race day? And dude,
He's so fun. Yeah.
You would not think the guy's racing at all. But I'm assuming they've all figured out that's way better. You cannot just sit there staring a hole through the wall for 12 hours and then perform well. But now we're finally seeing that.
Yeah, it's cool that we get a glimpse into that. It's so fun. And I love, I mean, I guess I'd be curious to know your opinion on the new format with SMX. You know, we've combined all these kind of segregated racing series into one thing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like it's been good for the sport?
It has benefited the pro motocross side immensely. I always try to remind people.
Kept keeping it alive, too.
Dude, I get mad because people complain about this or that. And I'm like, do you realize how easily some person could have come along and been like, why are we doing 2 motos? Why are we doing it at these tracks in the middle of nowhere? Motocross should be 1 moto and do it at a NASCAR track or a drag strip or something like that. Outside of Glen Helen, Every other track has just stuck around for 50 years, and it's the same tracks with the same format on the same weekend. Nothing has changed. That is so hard. I mean, think of how much discussion we just had on the media changing, this change, that change, in a world that is forcing you to change all the time. They just said, we're just trying to give the people what they always wanted, and we're trying not to change it. We had 2 30-minute motos at Redbud on the 4th of July. We have a Father's Day weekend at High Point. It's the same tracks, the same format. We're keeping it the same, when many people would probably say it's foolish. Why do you have 2 motos? Why are you racing in the middle of nowhere? Because that's the way it's supposed to be. So having the arm of that the whole year in Supercross is also promoting, hey, there's races this summer coming your way. And I think the Supercross numbers of attendance and TV viewership has gone up, but not nearly as much as the motocross side has gone up, because as hardcore fans, we thought everyone knew that both series existed. But I suppose that there was a slice, maybe it's 30% of the fans that are like, yeah, I knew there was something, but I don't know. I just go to the Supercrosses, man. And literally that first season, I believe it was 2023, the attendance for the Nationals benefited massively. And I can only assume it's because Supercross is talking about motocross all year. So as far as the 3 races at the end of the year, you can love it, you can hate it, you can be not interested, whatever. You cannot just judge it based on those 3 races. It's already benefited Supercross and motocross, the existing series, massively. And if you like the 3 races at the end of the year or not, it's already a net win just for the 11 Pro Motocross rounds. How many outside business people would come in and be like, wait. Half the year you're in a beautiful stadium with real concessions and restrooms and you're downtown, and then half the year you're racing in the middle of nowhere? Why would you do that? How much of a threat, really, must the motocross series have been in for decades over someone thinking, you should do all the races in a stadium. You shouldn't have any races like this. So to fight against those headwinds for decades and manage to keep it that way is a massive win for the sport.
Dude, it would be such a tragedy to lose motocross.
Right.
Because it's not as glamorous as Supercross, but it's the soul of our sport.
Right.
Man. And it's just like, for men, dude, like motocross is gnarly.
It's hard. That's the point.
It's gnarly. Like, we can never lose it, even though it's not as glamorous. So,
but can't you imagine some rich guy coming in and being like, hey, man, I'm going to take this over and I got an idea. Get rid of that crap.
Yeah.
Totally.
Let's just do the stadiums all year. It makes way more money. Like,
but that's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is to keep the sport going.
To preserve it.
And if that part goes away, the whole thing crumbles. Why is Honda even having a race team? Why is the gear company even making gear? You cannot.
Well, you're losing
decouple
touch
those
with
things.
the consumer.
Yeah.
The people spend the money. Like, if you can't even, these normal people aren't racing Supercross. So like you lose that connection with the consumers buying all these products that these brands these sponsors are, promoting.
You told me your story. Like, just goes back to where we started this show. The fact that that's your track and they're going to be there. You're from Colorado. It's a track I'm assuming you rode not just at the National.
No, every week.
And they come there once a year?
Yeah, it's insane.
That's
Especially the first year that they got the National.
Yes.
We hadn't had a race since the 80s.
Right.
And everyone was like, oh my God, they're coming to Colorado?
Yeah.
It felt unreal.
Right. So for the local racing scene, to have that is huge. And to lose that because you could make more money if you did it at a real, structure is missing the point. And to keep the point on, like, no, the point isn't just to make every dollar every weekend. It's to preserve what the sport is. And man, I even had this discussion with a guy on the flight to Salt Lake, because as I say, I'll talk to anybody. And people will throw out the F1, what they do, and NASCAR. And I'm like, hey, man, I get it. Those sports are very successful. But for every F1, there's like a rally car series that's on fire for 3 years and goes under. They got Pastrana and Deegan and energy drinks and X Games, and rally car racing is going to be the next big thing. And then 3 years later, it's gone. I'm like, this model, Kawasaki has showed up, whether it was Jimmy Weinert or Chase Sexton, they brought a truck and bikes to Anaheim for 50 years, which most series, not F1 and MotoGP, they're doing well. But most racing series would be like, bro, if we could just have what Supercross has and Motocross has, we would be more than happy. They're on stable ground. Athletes make money. There's a fan base, a real fan base. We don't have to try to create one. Don't completely blow this model up, because I've seen other series think they're going to survive the other way. How lucky are we that for some reason, every company that makes a legitimate motocross bike has decided you cannot not have a race team. You must have a race team.
Even companies that aren't even in moto are making bikes to have motocross bikes.
I think.
Like Triumph and
That's
Ducati.
probably why, right?
And like, why are they wanting to be involved in this sport? You know?
Probably to sell other bikes too, right?
I mean, probably.
Probably. Yes, it's not like Ducati said, we're going to build a motocross bike, but we're not going to have a team. We're not going to race. We're just going to sell bikes. In car racing, yes, I know Mercedes has a team. BMW doesn't. You know what I mean? Like, they didn't all say, if we don't participate in Formula One, we cannot sell cars. We absolutely must be here. We're doing it because we want to. We think there's a benefit, but we don't have to be here. For some reason, every major motorcycle manufacturer has decided if we're going to sell dirt bikes, we
have to
race.
Yeah.
And as soon as you
lose
that
credibility if you don't. You become like a Husaberg or something. Like you're not like legit unless you're racing professionally.
So how fortunate is that everyone has decided that's the way it has to be. So we're always going to have teams, and you're always going to have athletes getting paid. And this is going to be the most controversial thing I say on this. In some ways, the athletes at the top are overpaid based on their overall popularity, because any one of those factory dudes can walk to the airport and they don't get really recognized very often. They make millions because the gear companies and the motorcycle companies decided this is important for us to win. I don't even know if it pencils out on a piece of paper ROI. There might not be a spreadsheet that justifies this spend, but we want it.
How many sets of gear does Fox need to sell to pay Hayden Deegan's salary?
You know it's more than they actually do sell. It has to be.
Yeah.
It has to. They just want it. They just want it. They somewhat use the marketing to justify it, but there is no chance that the actual dollars actually pencil out. They just want it. And they all feel like they have to have it. And in every other sport, it's cool. Maybe we'll do it. But 2 years from now, we could just decide we're folding it up. We're leaving. It happens in car racing all the time.
You made a point about like these riders not being recognized in like general spaces. And I think the Supercross is in such a good place for Supercross.
Yeah.
But why do you think our sport, the gnarliest sport in the world, the coolest sport in the world, the best athletes in the world, risking the most, working the hardest, why haven't we broken into the mainstream like football or baseball or other sports?
So glad you asked. I'll answer this 1,000 times over and over. It's not because of the TV package or the graphics or the personality of the athletes. Not enough people have ridden dirt bikes to relate. The popularity of all sports is an exact 1-to-1 ratio of how many people have done it. A lot of people have thrown a football around in the backyard in America and played basketball. In Europe, a lot of people have kicked a soccer ball around. What are the most popular sports there? The one sport that has come from nowhere to be massive is UFC. It's fighting. Who on earth doesn't know what that is? And all UFC really did was take the place of boxing, which used to be the biggest sport, which is also fighting. So you're just literally and then as it gets a little bit harder to do, hockey, a little bit harder to find a rink, a little bit more equipment, a little less popular. Then we get into racing. More people drive cars than ride motorcycles. Car racing is more popular. MotoGP, more popular than dirt bike racing. But where is MotoGP most popular? In countries where more people ride motorcycles. If you go to Italy or Spain, people commute to work on scooters, like probably 40%. But here, no one. People have motorcycles for fun. It's a recreational toy to have in the garage. It is not, I don't own a car. I only go to work on a scooter. I've been to Rome. That's how it actually is. So how about that? In the country where people ride scooters to work, Valentino Rossi is a national mainstream hero. I wonder why. That's it, man. The only way to get bigger is for more people to have experienced riding a dirt bike at some point, because we all can watch an NBA game and have some memory of even when you were 10, of when you shot a basketball and what that maybe presumably feels like. And dirt bikes, You can't get it unless
It's not as attainable for a young kid to just pick up. You experience this firsthand. It's so easy to pick up a basketball and shoot a hoop. It's a lot harder for a family to get into racing motocross.
Right.
So,
and the reason I'm adamant about that, Ben, is because I don't want people to blame the wrong thing. I hear all the time the complaint is like, if the athletes would just be funnier or more open, the sport would be mainstream. If they would just do more press, the sport would be mainstream. I'm like, those things can help. They can move the needle a little bit, but they're never going to be as popular as the guy that plays football, because as soon as this pod is done, I can go and play football right there in the grass with my kid. You know how hard it is to load up the bikes I got in the garage? Really hard. Really hard to do that. That's automatically going to eliminate a lot of potential fans. Now,
that's why I don't watch cricket, because I've never played cricket. I don't care about cricket. I wouldn't turn it on TV to watch it.
You can't even figure out what the rules are, right?
I don't even know what it is.
No, but any American could presumably watch a football game and have a pretty good, you're not like, dude, I'm lost. I don't know what's going on, man.
I played football when I was a kid.
Exactly. So you know what's going on. So I just don't want the wrong people to get blamed. It's not the athlete's fault or the team's fault. Could everyone can always get better, sure. But until you get more people on dirt bikes or motorcycles or two wheels in general, it's never going to go there. So we need to focus on that. And I think our worst enemy isn't the TV show needs to be this or the tracks need to look like this. We need to make it easier for people that don't know what the heck is going on to give it a shot. Because I can speak from personal experience. When I was 23 and I finally did have a job and it was time to ride dirt bikes, finally, it was so unimaginably difficult. Because, like, I tell the story all the time. When you're pushing your bike into the back of your truck, it's so high up, you have to know to put the stand next to the ramp and use it as steps. How do you know that?
Do it. Yeah, someone has to teach you.
Yes. So if you're just some random, we always have this hope the sport's going to grow. So a random 23-year-old is going to watch it on TV and say, I'm going to buy a dirt bike.
My neighbor, he's in his 50s. He just bought his first bike. And his first, dirt bike.
Right.
You know how to load it. I'm like, well, you got to have something to step into the truck and use a ramp, and here's how you do it.
So we don't really have a system to make it easy for people to learn these things. And then you think of how hard it is to learn to ride or find a track, or how easy it is to get hurt even the first time. That's all discouraging people from doing it. We're making it so difficult, so hard to do, and so pricey that there's someone that would maybe try it, that maybe did or couldn't get to it, or they did try it, it was discouraging, and they're out. We're taking for granted that Honda sells dirt bikes, they bring these athletes to the race, and it's super awesome to watch. But how much are we doing to ensure that that keeps happening? And maybe we need to, look, man, if they all had old XR 200 level bikes that were, look, you've ridden a pit bike. It can still be fun, but you're going really slow.
Dude, my XR is my favorite bike.
Yeah. So if we had more of that, I always think of this. What if that was what the general person was actually doing? Not 450s are still around if you're really good. But what if every track had the class for the XR?
Yeah.
They don't, right?
My XR 600, that thing's so fun, dude.
Yeah. Or the pit bike, the 110 or the 125. There was a little growth of old school XR 200s, which are like 9/10 the size of a real bike, and there's no way when you're riding any of them that you're like, this sucks, bike too slow.
No, it's fun.
Still fun.
Yeah.
You're on the edge. You're getting all that experience, but hey, you're probably going 30% slower. So the overall ask from the risk standpoint, fitness standpoint, the maintenance standpoint is just a little bit lower. And I wonder if we made that part cool, if it would make it a little easier. Now, another avenue is obviously electric takes that to a whole nother level of easy to do, easy to find a place to ride it. Imagine if there were pump tracks in the same parks that have the Little League baseball fields. Can you imagine
It's like
that?
there's skate parks.
Oh my gosh. I didn't even think about that. Exactly. Can you imagine that existed?
Little electric dirt bike tracks.
Yeah.
It'd be sick.
Yeah. Or you go to the, those go-kart tracks, K1 speed or whatnot. Imagine if there were dirt bike places like that.
Yeah. You go rent, you get like 20 laps.
Yeah. I went to the go-kart track on spring break with my kid and his friend. He wasn't calling it go-karts. He just kept calling it F1. Like in his mind, this is F1. We're going around a track. He doesn't own a go-kart. We just gave him $40
$20 and go do Supercross.
Yes, and it could be super lame and super slow and
Yeah,
super
and
tame.
flat and tame, but that'd be so fun if you didn't know what you're doing. Like if
Yeah.
you're a beginner,
Because the go-kart track, think of how far off that is from F1. It's not even close.
you
So it
feel
doesn't have
you
to
feel
be.
like an F1 driver for a
Yes.
minute.
So the only way the sport's really going to grow is that way. We can do the other stuff at the top. We're all trying, trust me. We talk about it every day and every week. We're trying. But that's going to move the needle a bit. But until more people have felt those handlebars in their hands, and dude, there's nothing like it. Once you do that, you're good. There's no way anyone's going to ride and be like, this sucked.
Yeah, totally.
No, it's the greatest thing in the world, dude.
Well, I mean, there's a few people who have a bad experience and they get scared, but
Yes. And that's half the problem. Half of the problem is getting people to try it. And then the other half is it's a bad experience because we're not really geared up to help them. Now, there are some organizations that have started. We have this coaching association, which I don't know if people even realize why that's around, but that is around to alleviate that problem. You buy a dirt bike at your dealer, and the dealer can say, go to this website, you'll find a coach, and all the stuff you need to know. They'll tell you how to load the bike. They'll tell you how to not crash the first time you ride it and smooth that transition. Alden Baker is also a coach, but that's not what we're talking about here. We're talking about, and they learned it because if you go to a ski resort, they don't expect that you're just going to go on the slopes.
yeah.
We have a coach for you. Give us an hour. The experience will go much better.
Yeah, I like that.
Yes. And you can rent the skis. You can rent all the equipment. And then maybe if you did it once, maybe you'll do it again. Maybe when the Olympics are on.
It just becomes
You'll
more
get it.
accessible. That's the thing.
That's it.
Yeah.
And again, skiing, less popular than the other sports, harder to find places to do it, more expensive, but still probably more people do it.
A lot of people ski.
Exactly. So it's more relatable. Yeah. So that's our biggest obstacle. And I'm adamant about it because I don't want the blame or the effort to go to the wrong place.
What's one thing that you wish more people understood about the sport of motocross?
Well, it's the same thing everybody says. It's an athletic skills competition. It's an athletic sport. And it's hard. Obviously, it never looks as hard. It doesn't even look like it's hard. And you know what it's like. It's really freaking hard. How tired you get. That's number one. So just yesterday, I had to learn to golf. We were at the facility where we're going to hold the SMX finale, and they have 6 unbelievable golf courses. So we're just trying to show people all the stuff they can do if they come. So I had to play golf, which I do not do. Work with the golf,
dude.
Yeah, it sucked. At the end of the day, the golf pro's like, so hey man, what separates like the riders who are good from the riders who aren't? Is it just some people have less fear than others? I'm like, no man, no, it's not the ballsiest guy wins. I go, it's just like any other sport. Some people have this gift, talent that other people don't. It's no different than golf. You were probably pretty good at golf the first time you played. Like this guy played at the college level. Is he Tiger Woods? No, but he's a good golfer. He has a talent for golf. Other people could work just as hard and are not going to be as good as him. And he could work just as hard and he's not going to be as good as Phil Mickelson or whatever. I'm like, it's an athletic sport, dude. There's a talent to it. Yes, you can work hard and improve your craft, but I don't know if it's balance, coordination, brain processing speed. I go, it's not even really size because we have guys that are 6 feet tall and guys that are 5'5", and it works out about the same. But there is a talent. It's unfortunate that other sports, you can measure it on, I can see that guy's taller or can run faster, or can jump higher. We don't have that easy to see measurable, but it's the same, dude. It's an athletic sport just like the rest of them. Eli Tomac was born fast. He's just friggin' fast. He worked at it, but he's a 1%er from the day he came out. That's it.
I mean, it's just like golf in that, some people have it and some people don't. But the difference is that you can have that gift, but the thing about this sport is you have to work so hard to be able to perform at that level. So not only do you have to have that gift, have the natural athletic ability, but you have to earn it in a way that almost any other athlete wouldn't.
Certainly from the risk standpoint. Now, every golfer who's listening to this would be like, cry me a river, bro. I was out there at 6 a.m. too. I was putting my reps. But what none of those sports have is the risk factor.
They're not risking their life every time they go to the course.
That's the big difference.
And also the requirements for golf, you want to be fit and athletic, but you're not maintaining 190, 200 beats per minute for 40 minutes.
No.
Pure cardio, pure
Yes.
muscle, like strength, endurance, like the brutality. You're not getting pelted with rocks in your
Yes.
face
Yep.
for 40 minutes.
And if you mess up, you get hurt. Like, you could argue that a marathon runner is maybe pushing themselves more, but there's literally only one thing, the pushing yourself. That's it. There really isn't a skill part to it. You have to do that and maintain the actual technique of riding the bike. In the endurance sports like running, you're just trying to control the heart rate. That's the entire game. Keep your legs and your lungs good. Here, you're also braking, clutching, throttle, all that stuff. And if you get it wrong, you don't just slow down. You could go to the hospital, which is not going to happen for the most part in a cycling race. You're just going to go slower. Yes, to have crashes, but not like that. When do you make the most mistakes? When you're tired. So that part is different. But when you say the main thing I try to explain to people, I'm like, dude, it's an athletic sport like anything else, dude. It is. It's not about who has the most balls. Is that a factor? Yes. But when you were racing and trying to make it, do you feel your limit was based on your guts?
No, that would
Like,
probably hurt you if you just had all guts.
Right. You just wadded up.
Yeah.
Yeah. You weren't like, hey, I'm scared to go faster.
No.
You were going as fast as you felt you could go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was scared every time, but like I was trying my hardest, but there's just people that are just better. Dude.
Yeah. And I just want people to know that it's just like any other sport like that. Michael Jordan had a gift and Ricky Carmichael had a gift. It's not the bike. The bike is a factor, but it's really just an athletic skills competition, just like the rest of them, man. And it's balance, coordination, strength. I don't know what it is, but it's there.
You've done a lot in your career so far. Do you have any goals that you're still working toward? Like what's next for you?
At this point, I'm like at the first point ever where I would just say, if I could just keep doing what I'm doing for a long time, I'd be more than happy.
That's a good place to be, man.
It is. It's a little scary too, because it's the first time ever where you're like, you have to come to grips with, hey, wait, there is no guarantee the future, since I'm not reaching for anything, there's no guarantee the future, oh, it's going to get better. It's going to get better. I'm more picturing the day where it gets worse. Now, everybody expires at some point. Who knows what? And we're in a small sport. I mean, I never take for granted the fact that it could just not be around. I don't think the NFL is going to cease to exist in the next 100 years. I don't know, man. It's dirt bike racing. It's not that big. So there's that.
Especially as the world changes and who knows if motorcycles stay as relevant.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So that's, the biggest threat is the existential threats, the ones that you really don't have any control over. Beyond that, yes, there was a time where I tried. That's part of the reason I live here in Charlotte area is I'm like, oh, maybe you need to go even beyond that. And I was never able to get the Supercross job for a long, long time. So I was like, okay, since I can't get to the brass ring of this sport, I've got to diversify. So I was doing some NASCAR things, and I thought that was the direction I was going. And there were like 2 years of my life where I was just, the point my eyes were bleeding with the amount of research I was doing on NASCAR to try to make up for the fact that I didn't grow up watching NASCAR in the same way I did motocross. And it didn't work out. And that was heartbreak I had to carry with me for years. It's all worked out that I'm back in Supercross now. So those feelings are gone. So I'm like, it all worked out in the end. So yeah, I've kind of given up on that. Like, hey, if NBC, who I do work for, is like, do you want to cover the Olympics one year? Absolutely. That would be awesome. Nice feather in the cap. But no longer am I saying like, I won't be satisfied until I get X. Everything would be a bonus. I'm getting to do Supercross, motocross, SMX. I go to the races and people know me. I've arrived to any level that I would have ever have hoped to arrive.
If you could talk to that kid driving down to West Virginia, moving into the Racer X office after everything you've done and everything you know now, what do you think he would say?
This is probably shocking. This is my answer. I'd be like, yeah, that's what I was hoping would happen.
That's why I'm driving
That's
to
why
West
I'm
Virginia.
driving here. You didn't race the Thunder Valley National thinking you're like, I think I might be able to.
No, I just thought it's cool to be part of it.
Yeah. You didn't think I don't belong here, man. I shouldn't be here. I had enough faith. I never, ever doubted that I had the skill to do it. You just know in life, there's a million other luck, happenstance, connections. It takes all those things. You have to make that happen. Right place, right time. That's really hard. But I never doubted that I could do it. It was like when I was driving to West Virginia there in '01, if someone had said, do you think you could announce this weekend's motocross race on TV? I'd be like, yeah, I could do it right now. No one's going to offer me that right now, but I'll be ready when the day comes. So I always believed that I could do it. But making it happen, dude, is, especially in a field as rickety as this, like TV is essentially show business. Racing's better in that sense of like, if you're good, a very good chance it will work out. There are things that can happen that can derail it. But how do you prove you're good at announcing? Like, it's just a judgment call. You know, there isn't a lap time or a amount of weight you can lift or I can dunk a basketball. To really, truly prove you're good, it's very hard to grasp what that intangible, what is
subjective.
Good.
It's subjective. A style. It's a...
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I believed I would, but like, or I believed I could. Would? Who knows, man? I was just trying to take every step forward I could to get there.
Well, it's cool from the outside looking in, you know, like I said, growing up through the 2000s to now, like you've been a voice for the sport that I love. And
wild to hear it that way.
And it's cool to finally meet you. So I appreciate you making time with your insanely busy schedule and everything you got going on. And thanks for sharing your story.
No problem. It's fun to do it. And yes, I literally had to go to the RacerX Slack and be like, I'm going to be gone for a little bit. I got to do a pod. Not even for us. I'll do my own pod later. But it's always fun to do it because I think these bigger picture stories, we don't, like I said, we got to get more people on bikes. We don't talk about that enough. So we need to do it. So I'm glad to.
And you've done so much. Like you need to like step back and appreciate it just a couple times in your career to like really think about like, man, I've really done all of this. Like to just have some gratitude for where you've been and what you've done. It's cool.
I think that's the motocross way. We all kind of suck at that. We all suck at that, man. I mean, every single mechanic under that tent, they're just wrenching on the bike. They're never thinking like, I never thought I would be like, they know they never thought that they would make it to like being a factory mechanic. But I don't think they take much time out to really reflect on it. They're just doing their job. And maybe that's the blessing and curse of like, it takes so much ambition to get there that you don't know how to turn the ambition off even for 5 minutes.
Yeah.
No one in the pits is doing that, dude. The poor riders, they're the real dream job, right? Factory rider. I don't think they ever think about it. They're just like, I got second. That sucked.
Well, I'm grateful for this time with you. Thanks, brother.
Awesome.
Cheers.
Right on, Ben. Yep.
Yeah, I'll see you around.
Yep.
If you ride motorcycles long enough, you start to realize it's not about if something bad will happen. It's about when. And when it does, having the right people in your corner makes all the difference. That's why I've partnered with my friends at Rider Justice. They're not just a law firm, they're actually riders. They understand the risks we take every time we throw a leg over the bike, and they're here to support specifically the motorcycle community. From helping you understand insurance coverage to being by your side to help you through the process and provide you with resources if you ever happen to find yourself in an accident. But what I really respect is what they do beyond that. Educating riders to be more prepared, hosting crucial safety training, showing up to events, supporting the community, embedding themselves in the culture, and actively working to make the roads safer for all of us. You can learn more and find the resources that you might need at riderjustice.com.